Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a good time. And we are live and direct from the Nisei Plaza on the moon, if I remember correctly. This is Vesper. I'm very happy to be here again. Thanks to all the possible circumstances bringing me here again. We are today. Somebody just wrote "curse you" as Project Nisei on Twitch. By the way, sorry. This is not me. I did not write that. Okay, that was not me. That was somebody else. Anyway, no, really, for sure. Apologies for this aside. We are about to be starting the top 8 cut, the top cut of the first ever Nisei Asia Pacific Continental Championships, with 8 people duking it out for the honor of being the first champion of the Asia Pacific Continental Championships. Time to get excited indeed. Hello to Sappho, and to Gothic Shadow, and to Princess Space Kitten, hello, and to Spare Chew as well. And huge, immensely vast and infinite, like the net in Ghost in the Shell, thanks to Andre from Metropole Grid for running a pre-show. Thanks to Andre. By the way, spoiler alert, there's gonna be a bit of spoilers here and there. Andre is definitely coming to come over and talk with us. Maybe not today, or maybe later, or I don't know. But because I'm not the one coordinating things here. I'm just the silly voice at this end of the microphone. But yes, we will be, of course, having more special guests throughout the whole Continental's cycle, or the whole Continental series this month. And you know, there are many people out there to come over and be our guests and co-commentate, and Andre is definitely one of them. That would be amazing to have here, so looking forward to that. Absolute hype. But today, and indeed today, let's focus maybe on the task at hand, because I'm getting poked by Akira with this very long virtual stick, and it's like, yeah, you know, we're almost there. It is indeed, we're almost there. I'm just quickly looking. We should be starting the first round of the top cut quite soon. So, without further ado, I am going to introduce my co-hosts for the start today. I just have to click all the buttons, you know, click all the absolutely important buttons. So I am going to be joined today by Pat and by Drop Bear. They are going to be taking the games away, so to speak. They're gonna be walking you through them. Rubber is actually one of the people playing yesterday, but I should be shutting up right now. Please, my absolutely special guests and lovely people, introduce yourselves right now. Pat, please go first as the co-host from yesterday, and tell us a few words about yourself. And yeah, then we're gonna be going into talking about the top 8.
Thank you so much, Vesper. Hello, everyone. Good to have all the distinguished runners here watching the top 8 of the Asia Pacific Continentals. I am Patrick Burke, once Netrunner player, once Nisei member, now Premier Shoutcaster. So thank you so much. And I am joined by Drop Bear, who did very well in yesterday's tournament, just barely missing out on this cut. So it's wonderful to have you here.
Great to be here. Hi, I'm Drop Bear. I'm part of the Allied Sea Grid and do some things here and there for Netrunner.
Okay, perfect.
Wonderful. So just so everyone knows, I'll give you a quick breakdown of the top 8 so far. Our first seed is Q and Leela Patel. Second was Elusive Schemer with Acme Consulting and Hoshiko Shiro. Unfortunately, Elusive Schemer apparently did not expect to perform this well and could not make today, so they have dropped. Next is Inactivist with GameNet and 419. Next is Shadowshot 66 with Mirrormorph and Haley. That'll be really exciting to see. I'm really excited about seeing a Mirrormorph performing at this high level of competition. Fifth, we have Whiteblade with Titan Transnational and Freedom Kamalo. Bridgeman with Controlling the Message and Hoshiko Shiro. And you know how I feel about Controlling the Message. Very happy to see it here. We have Meek or Mike with The Outfit and 419. Labis over from Germany with Titan Transnational and Geist. And then our 9th seed, who made it in on Elusive Schemer's drop, is Longi with Argus Security and Leela Patel. Drop Bear, do you have any of these runners or corps you're particularly excited about seeing?
Obviously, there's a lot of green in the top 8. Everyone's liking the Wayland, whether it's Outfit, Titan, Argus is a interesting choice, I guess, in this top 8. But I think it's also interesting to see that so many people going with different color runners as well. So there is a good split of criminal versus anarch, honestly. Although with the one shaper.
Yes, there is a shaper, Shadow Shot 66 being the lone shaper in the cut, piloted alongside Mirrormorph, which again is an off-meta choice. So very excited to watch him.
I'm very surprised to see so many MBNs as well. I thought that MBN would die with the banning of Asmari, but it seems that people are actually starting to go, oh, hey, it's not just Asmari that we need to play around with. We've got a GameNet and which is the just released MBN ID that was in the latest pack. And then, of course, controlling the message or controlling the meta. Everyone's favorites. Basically, just spam out as many assets as you can and hope they don't trash it.
I've also been told that Andre is going to be joining us, I believe, over from Metropole Grid. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, lovely. Super excited to be here. Hi, my name is Andre. I've been streaming and making content on the Metropole Grid. We just had this quick pre-show and we just dived into chat over here. I'm super excited for today. I didn't have too much time to watch the whole stream. Y'all were streaming for a long time yesterday. I'm really excited to be part of the finals today.
Wonderful. Good to have you here.
Okay.
So in terms of, I just heard Elusive Schemer has dropped. Do we have the 9th place, Longi taking their spot, or how does that going to work?
Yes,
that's correct.
And
fantastic.
It works out really cleanly because Longi was the last ranked 21 point ranked person. So it always feels bad to miss out just due to strength of schedule. So in some ways, it is good that at least we don't have one person just missing out on strength of schedule.
Yeah, that 0.12, the clean 21 break, that's fantastic.
For most people.
Yeah.
I do need to. We're still setting up all the tables right now, so we're still having a bit of a wait. But is there any of these players outside of the usual Asia Pacific that you guys are really interested in? Because because it seems to be a very odd split of like almost 50-50 Asia Pacific and Europe and Americans.
I have a really bad job of knowing where players are playing out of. I don't know. I've looked through some of the deck lists at least before. I know they're publicly available to see through. And I think as in terms of like a certain matchup I want to see, I know Bridgman is on a Hoshiko deck that is Attack Me Hoshiko, which is wildly different than I think any of the other Anarchs we have in the top cut. I'm super excited to see how that goes. I think we only have 2 decks in the top 8 that can capitalize. Oh, I guess now, yeah, Argus is in. So maybe only 2 decks that can capitalize on meat damage in a meaningful way. I'm really excited to see what that counter surveillance, those big digs look like.
With that being said, there is 5 green, so there is going to be some sort of punishment, I'd say, and also controlling the message.
I think those Titan lists are clean. I think everyone's gone off of the hard-hitting news and they're just on like triple biotic, fully fast advance out. You might be able to get away with just, piling on those tags and counter surveillancing all their atlases.
Yep. Yeah, we have QVM, who I believe is Swiss, Inactivist, who is, I believe, Australian, Shadowshot, also Australian, I believe. Whiteblade, who is Canadian. Bridgman, not entirely sure, somewhere in Europe land. Meek, who is a New Zealander, New Zealander, excuse me. Labis from Germany, and I'm not sure where Longi is from.
I believe Longi is from Australia.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Yeah. Then 50-50 split. Good to see.
It's totally worth noting for those watching at home, you did not need to be in the Asia Pacific area to enter a Continentals. The only rule Nisei has is that you can only enter in one of the 3 Continentals. So for a lot of people, maybe the other 2 don't work in terms of, availability. So even if you're going to play Netrunner at some really strange hours because of the time zones, this is kind of what worked out. And this is the first we have. Again, next weekend is European Continentals, and after that, we're seeing the Americas.
All right, we had some corrections for regions in the chat. Longi is Czech, actually. And Bridgman is Sweden.
Yeah, so I'm entirely on Team Canada. Eric is, I think, entirely carrying the weight of this torch. So
best tables are up now. So we need to decide. I think we should maybe look into the Australian matchup with Showshot and Meek as we decided.
Yep. That sounds good to me. And we'll get a chance to see the Mirror Morph and the Haley both, which will be really exciting.
So please be patient as we load into the game. They're keeping up their keeps. It's Mirror Morph versus 419.
This is really interesting. I'm not entirely sure what sort of play patterns to expect from this Mirror Morph. We do have the deckless influence spread between Border Control, Slot Machine Surveyor, and GFIs. Going pretty hard on a 5-3 agenda spread with GFI's SSL endorsement, and then 2 Cyberdeck Sandbox and Vitruvius rounding out a single Vitruvius rounding out the agenda pool. MCA austerity policy, which is basically a staple in Mirror Morph, and some violet level clearances. Jinja City grid, so expect a very glacier heavy sort of deck with this.
It's a pretty unorthodox agenda suite. We're seeing other 3-pointers. We're seeing SSL endorsements on top of Global Food Initiatives. One of the big benefit of Global Food Initiative is it counts as a 2-pointer in the runner score area. But I think if a Meek takes a single SSL out of the deck, the value of the Global Food Initiatives is entirely lost in this list. They can still win in 3 agenda scores. So it's definitely a bit unusual and unorthodox. I think at the end of the day, it was just something else to score out with the MCA austerity policy, but we'll see. I don't think Meek has any strong multi-axis in the early game. I think we're only on turning wheels, so the Stargates aren't going to be able to take those SSL out of the top 3 cards of R&D if they need to. But it's all about whether or not they can find those SSLs.
Yep, and we're seeing that right at the beginning with Shadow Shots starting with an aggressive defense on their HQ, not really worried about any early R&D multi-access or anything like that.
Yeah, and that's definitely worth knowing. At this point, at the top 8 cut, these deck lists are public, so Shadow can look over at Mike's list and see, hey, there's no Stargate. Hey, I have no reason to ice up R&D. We know that there's going to be diversion of funds, so that double ice, make sure you don't get that cheesy boomerang into diversion play, and gives them the confidence now to start building off on their remote.
I'd say that I've actually played with Zach a couple of times since he's the only person left in the top 8 that's from my actual city. So, hey, Zach. Showshot is this deck's really focused around just good efficiency. And the other thing is also Cyberdeck Sandbox, and you probably also know Cyberdeck's Virus Suite is actually really punishing if you get basically the late game setup of if you've scored 2 Cyberdexes and then have something in archives, they can't run archives and give you 8 credits every time. It's such a big issue.
So I think a lot of this is the abundance of Titan Transnational, but I think the vast majority of decks in the top 8 have 2 Cyberdex Virus Suites in all of them. And we're dealing with a lot of Amakua-based 419s, perfectly good with that expose, that extra pressure, but I don't know how favored Amakua is going to be on these fields.
Ginger sees Grid exposed in server 1, and they're installing another card. So maybe setting up server 1 for the first Glacier and first agenda score.
Falsified credentials, finding the Rashida on top of that Jinja. I think you might want to snap res those to not bleed more falsifieds. Maybe you're happy to lose them on those where it's just money and Amaku counters. Mike checking R&D, building those turtle counters up.
It's 3 on the turtle.
Getting an early Jinja in combination with Rashida seems like it's going to be really important to the tempo of this deck to be able to clicklessly build that remote as fast as possible. Also worth noting that Jinja is actually really nice against 419 because you are installing a card you were already planning on revealing anyway, so your actual click to installs, you don't have to sweat it too much.
So if you're following Gurung on the chat log at home, you can see all the ice that gets thrown onto that remote server. It looks like it's Drafter as the outermost. Rashida might only have hit a single ice, and that's a big reason why Shadow wants a double ice HQ before drawing too heavily. Jinja City Grid gives you those cheap installs, gives some information to the runner, but at the end of the day, if Shadow is not installing those cards, you know that they're not ice, so the pressure on HQ can only get heavier and heavier. 4 Amaku counters. I think the highest, the top range of HB ice is probably around 6 on Gatekeeper. Maybe you have to watch out for a tier, but Mike could probably double run R&D, go in an HQ, maybe get an agenda that's hanging out there. It might be 2 and 6.
He's definitely thinking about it.
This Mirror Morph deck does have kind of an unusual like type composition. It has 10 assets and 9 operations. So although there is definitely that implied density in HQ, it's not necessarily so troublesome as it might appear to be in some other decks.
MC Austerity hitting the table, 1 power counter. Again, we are playing Mirror Morph. It's kind of hard to keep track of everything at once, but if Mirror Morph does 3 separate different actions, 1 install, 1 operation, 1 advancement counter, or 1 power counter, they get that extra efficiency. So now Mike only has 3 clicks and knows they're on the clock. It's only, I think, 2 turns before a 5-3 gets scored out of hand, or does Mirror Morph have that 2-turn trick? Is that only for 4-2s? Oh boy.
That's normally It is normally for 4-2s, which is a major reason we're not seeing a ton of 3-2s in this deck. I'm checking to see if there are any extra things that they could do. I'm sure, like with lateral growth and restore, I'm sure there's some shenaniganery that they could get into, but my mind is not wrapping around it right now.
Amaku at 6 counters. Yeah, sorry. I think that's the higher range that you need for this remote, and with most bones providing 12 credits to be able to trash, you can get rid of that all of everything inside that server for absolutely free, if I'm not mistaken. Shutting down that early Jinja, always a good thing to do.
Just slot machine res, so lose 3, gain 3, and I think this is going to be Miss Bones. 1 off in the 419 deck, but I think it's probably a very scary card. It's actually been doing work this tournament, I think, as a one-off, because people are starting to set up their own little mini servers with lots of assets and lots of upgrades that just basically can't take too much to trash. It's a zero, like for example, the there's a deck which has the zero cost to res 5 to trash cards, for example, that give you 4 extra hand size. You can't trash that for what a regular amount of credits would cost.
And hey, those credits are going to come in even more valuable. Restore for 1 click and 1 credit gets that austerity back on the table. Forced to res off of it, but it might back down to 3 clicks a turn. Amakua still can largely charge that remote server. Did that Jinja come out of nowhere? Where'd that Jinja come from?
The Jinja was actually the restore. They had a MCA austerity policy in hand. And you can just see from there straight on just how important Shadow Shot knows that Jinja is to their economy and to their tempo.
Still,
doing
2 points.
Yeah, HQ run, getting the one of the Vitruvius in Shadow Shot's deck.
And that Paul-Op coming down off of the HQ run, that final click on the turn does contest the austerity. Now, Shadow's in this uncomfortable position. They can continue to put power counters on the austerity policy. At the end of the day, the political operative can tear all that down. I still think Shadow probably wants to do that. Giving only 3 clicks to Mike does slow their advances, but that Paul-Op is going to do a lot of work in this matchup.
Yep, it does synergize with West Bones too.
Oh yeah, no way. That's awesome.
Share Shot is only on 4 credits, so there is a bit of a lack of money in the Corp's favor. They really need some sort of money. And here comes the bravado. No.
Yeah, Shadow's really going to need to find a window somewhere to purge, or just hope that Mike collides with what I'm assuming is 2 Cyberdex Fire Suites in the deck. That 7 strength Amakua is basically turning all this ice into just pennies. Bravado going to make a lot of a return on this run, probably even get an access. I don't think you want to use the border control to stop a single. Easily another agenda in HQ.
Gatekeeper from HQ gains the money.
So Shadow drawing up, austerity up on 3 counters, popping it. I don't know whether they let Mike have the window to interact. I think Mike is asking for a sec. Yeah, there you go. Undo click, please. It looks like Mike is definitely going to want to use that political operative to deny that austerity.
There is a window here because it is a separate click to actually trash. So to actually activate it.
So there's that timing window that opens up for Paul-Op to be used. Yep.
So the first counter or the third counter got there on this turn anyways. So Mike is still only going to have a 3-click turn, but denying that whole austerity that Shadow spent so much time working on is definitely a pretty big setback. I imagine that, well, we know that this remote server is not secure, and austerity represented one of the easier ways that Shadow could have scored an agenda. Just drawing. Credit.
It would have been a 4-2, not a 5-2, but it's still a 5-3. But it's still a big issue, really. But, of course, the other thing about MCA is giving the runner 3 clicks to play around with instead of 4 is still a huge, downside. Even if now that's a 9 virus counter turtle.
On their remote, I want to mention the mirror morph shenanigans going into that. It was MCA, draw, click for credit, and then with the mirror morph click, playing violet level clearance. Being able to use that dense draw to play out, a surveyor and a drafter to put on the remote. So even though this is a 9 counter, Omakua still can't get through that surveyor.
Right 10 strength.
10 strength, yeah. One of the downsides now, Mike has perfect information on what the remote is. Again, you can take notes at home if you'd like to in tournament play. So I think Mike's best case is just basically to find a boomerang to get through that surveyor. That's one of the easiest ways to deal with it. Has some time, going to get some filtered draw, or at least some filtering with Paragon as well. And checking the archives to see what was thrown out. Looks like we ditched a gatekeeper just that last turn. Yep. Shadow really needs to find some time to purge. That remote, still, that server probably only cost them 3 credits to get through, give or take. Oh, it's a sandbox. Does Shadow think that's safe? 11 strength on Amakua, 11 counters Amakua, only 4 credits to Mike's name. Dirty Laundry Archive's going to get 1 more counter, which probably doesn't matter, but 4 more credits with the Paragon. I don't think the sandbox can be safe. I think even if there's a border control, Mike can run this twice, very likely. That slot machine at the end doesn't actually do anything to prevent the access.
Yeah,
here comes the run.
So this is the surveyor. If Shadow wants to res that for half their money, but looks like there is a border control that should have been fully known to Mike. Mike can pay 2 credits or even 1, but I don't think you want to give Shadow the money at this time. It looks like Mike has the credits to double run this.
But he does have to go through the toll booth, the slot machine before activating the board control. So there could be, if this is a good slot machine, that's 2 slot machines. So he's going to lose 3 credits from this.
You can just Amakua it for 2 credits. They should be okay.
Right, yeah. Never mind.
Approaching server 1, so border control popped, and getting the border control popped at this point is also very good. Not only does it make that make the surveyor a bit lower its strength, 5 credits. If there's another border control, but I'm pretty sure we know everything on this remote server due to the Jinja and the even the 419 pressure.
Could
So that would have to be the third border
drop it?
control.
Yeah, I think this was a miscalculation. I think Shadowshot may have been thinking just the way we were, that there was going to be the gain 3, lose 3 that's happening on it, and didn't really think about the fact that, oh, this is a 12 strength turtle. It can break anything.
Yeah, maybe that single dirty laundry was enough of a surprise. You know, that 4 credits for 1 click is still a lot of money. We're coming back here. Shadow is thinking. I'm pretty sure we have a drafter on the outside. Now we're approaching the surveyor. Shadow going to throw all their money into this. This means that Mike doesn't even have to make a successful run if they want. It's very likely that that Cyberdeck's sandbox in there is going to be safe anyways. But we're going to go through, and it looks like Shadow's going to be on no credits. I don't think Bones is going to have enough money to destroy the Jinja as well as take the agenda.
Right.
And we know we have a
Jinja is
bravado.
5.
Okay.
We have a bravado coming up, so I don't know what Shadow does here. Purge seems a bit rough considering Archives is open. R&D is, you can't res that ice. And this is where the SSL and the Global Foods, that's SSL again, is Mike is technically on game point if they can find that one, those 2 SSL endorsements, the proper 3-pointers that are in this list. Both
They're really
players
back
on
up
0 credits.
Yeah. But Reggie is going to keep 419 in good graces, and we know there are 2 bravados coming up from the slot machine reveals.
Not only that, but Rozeki gives you the credit. The good old Paragon gives you a credit. There is drip.
Yeah. Looking at the list that Mirrormorph has, there's no ice that's inherently anti-AI. Like, we don't have that, that IP block, roadblock, no swordsman, anything like that. I think the best we have is a Hagen. It's also worth noting that this list only has 2 border controls, which are 1 in archives, 1 on the table. We do have 2 restores. That's the only recursion we have. Jamming into remote server, it's a Rashida.
Probably just trying to draw for the Cyberdex, maybe.
Shadow resing that. I like that play. It plays around the falsified credentials. Mike drawn into that bravado. I imagine we're going to see a bravado right here, just on R&D. That's 5 credits with the Paragon, and with 2 credits, Shadow not threatening to res a lot. A single axis off the top. Paragon getting that filtering. Mike trashing an NGO front. It's totally worth noting Miss Bones has a strange clause on the card that says that you can only use these credits to trash installed cards, so you can't use it to trash the NGO and R&D. But we got a Fairchild 3.
Reminds me of the old trick with Parisia that you couldn't use Parisias on Mumbad virtual tours because Parisia only like trash assets.
Shadow, I think, still really needs to find that time to purge, to make sure that Amakua can't be the only breaker Mike's going to need for the full game. Even just drawing with Rashida to get the Cyberdex Fire Suite into archives does a heck of a lot. Lateral growth.
Yeah, I think they're looking for a CVS more than looking for time to purge, because they're still trying to gain tempo to be able to just gain money. That's what they're really hurting on right now.
I think we found it.
Yes, yeah.
And now if Mike doesn't want to run face long into that, they're going to have to worry about hitting a Fairchild 3 with the CVS at the same time. Now with only 7 credits, not a real threat. Turning wheel into bravado, just going HQ. Again, Rashida did fire. There's a chance there's an agenda in those 5 in HQ. Now Mike could always be surprised if a CVS wants to be res and pop in R&D. That would only make 4 credits for a bad face check. I think Hagen would fire here if they have that perfectly lined up.
Yeah, that'd be pretty nasty right now. We said there was no explicitly anti-AI ice, but we have some examples of pseudo anti-AI ice, and one of those is indeed Hagen.
Yeah, Hagen destroys, it'll trash a program that's neither... Ooh! That was a border control and the run before they passed the outermost ice, so they're not going to get more money off the bravado, but that really signals something. I think that was Mike's last click of 3. Shadow looking to hold probably more than 1 agenda in HQ and nowhere to put them here.
Worth noting, too, we have not seen a single diversion of funds, and Shadowshot's economy right now is fragile enough that a couple of those could be really disastrous for him.
Yeah,
I'm surprised. What could R&D upgrade be then? Because if he's not resing it for CVS and run... Oh, there's the diversion of funds.
Just in time. A diversion now only taking 5 credits away from the 12. Not going to be the most impactful. It does hamper the sort of like Fairchild 3 into Cyberdeck's Virus Suite res. But I feel like if you think there's a CVS and R&D, you probably want to trash it on your own terms. I think you probably want to run it. Because that 14 strength Amakua is going to be no good at charging the remote soon. It looks like MC Austerity Policy, though, is going to be fired 4 clicks. Revealing an SSL endorsement in server 1. Sorry, 5 clicks now. You can score that out. That's money. And that's an SSL, which is scary. There's only 2 of those in the deck, and that is the game point agenda. It looks like that was an HQ, which is why the border control was popped. What was it, 2 turns ago now?
Yeah, that was definitely the calculation that had to have been made.
Shadow returning to the HQ pressure, hitting the food. Oh. So now the food good, right? Now Mike is definitely on game point. Seeing an NGO from HQ. Can't use those missed bones credits, but building up that turning wheel, thinning out HQ, and those 3 credits coming in from SSL. Shadow still has a lot of work to do. They don't have the money for the CBS into ice.
Oh, I believe the upgrade on R&D is probably the Ginger, because that's probably also starting to turn into an issue. If they can get into a good R&D dig with Turning Wheel, that's going to be that could be game point with 6 agendas already on the table.
It's worth noting, this is turn 14. There's only 13 cards left in R&D. Just eating through their deck. Checking HQ again. That's the second global initiative, and Mike is going to take it. That Amakua pressure, 1 program, 15 strength. Obviously, that gets through everything. Whether there was a CVS on R&D, I don't know if we're ever going to find out. So maybe that remote was a bit more secure. That could have just been a Jinja, could have been a bluff, but just Amakua and pressure is all you need.
You can res for 3 credits, and I think at this stage, with 15 credits, you just res it and pop it automatically and just take the L there. But every tech card right at the start.
I think what happened, I think where the game really turned on its head was Shadow Shot's miscalculation with the Cyberdeck sandbox that was vulnerable that we mentioned. Had he been able to score that purge would have been very timely, and the econ benefit of being able to purge, gain money, gain tempo, whether it's by the triple click or by Cyberdeck's Virus Suite, would have really turned this game on its head. I do think that was a miscalculation, thinking about Slot Machine.
So I think there was that. Sorry?
Apparently GFI was also in the bin, so got pretty much flooded with agendas there.
I think that turn where they missed the pull-up trigger was Shadow very aggressively trying to MC Austerity into the Cyberdeck sandbox, because that seemed like their easiest out, not only getting that agenda out of hand, but purging and getting that 4 credits. Once that plan went downhill, there could easily be a bit of tilt. It kind of really changes your plans very quickly, and from there they probably had to go ahead and jam in the remote next turn. So maybe there was a bit of a miscalculation there. I think if they did Austerity out, and you see how strong that pull-up is, but if they did get to Austerity out that Cyberdeck sandbox, obviously we're going to have such a different game.
Yeah.
Hopefully we do have more games on the way. We've still got 1 table still going. Bridgeman versus Whiteblade. Do you want to see if we can get into that?
Let's jump in.
So it's worth noting for those watching at home, this is the top cut, so players only play 1 side. It's double elimination. So right now, Mike is up ahead. If Shadow loses 1 more game in the next rounds, they're out of the tournament. So in these matchups, it's either a coin flip or dependent on strength of schedule, who plays what side. But it's a very, very cutthroat cut.
Double elimination. It's one of the most hardest parts of Netrunner.
The
tour guides everywhere.
Ooh. 2 tour guides, no assets, 0 subroutines.
Worth noting, these are also the only 2 tour guides in the deck. It looks like Whiteblade has been very judicious with using Freedom Kamalo's ability to his advantage.
Yeah. Freedom, I think, has a pretty cool matchup against CTM. A lot of the cards that you're scared of, or a lot of the really good tempo positive assets and upgrades that CTM wants to run, are low res cost, high trash cost, and Freedom can get around that pretty heavily with a single Yusuf. This is also a really weird Freedom deck. It's not Nob Curie, it's not Pelongi. It doesn't run any viruses besides Amakua and Yusuf, and I guess Data Sucker, Global Food Initiative, Stored from Hand. But it's more just like a regular Anarch Shell with a bit of that Freedom destruction, which is super cool to see. Well, we're on game point here. In theory, Bridgman could have it if they have a Beal into like calibration testing in server 6.
HQ still Global Food Initiative. So it's game point for both sides. 6 agenda points for Whitebladed, 5 for Bridgman.
A lot of this controlling the message power is based off of these assets triggering on top of each other. You have things like team sponsorship. You have things like Jeeves model Biroids. And if Whiteblade can control the table, Bridgman is not very good at building a remote server that can protect this deck, that can protect an agenda. This deck runs very little ice. And I think a lot of that ice is on the lower end. Taxing requires a breaker, but well, not even that taxing, but does require a breaker. And Blade is set up for this. Server 6 getting...
yeah, sorry. You can look in the archives and see just how effective Freedom has been in dismantling Bridgman's board state. All 3 team sponsorships are in the bin. 2 Jeeves. It's obvious that Whiteblade has been very much capitalizing on Freedom's ability in dismantling the board state that way. Although they've also been capitalizing on using a lot of 0, considering the fact that they have no cards left in their stack.
And I think they might just have, again, you don't need a lot of economy if you're trashing assets for virus counters. So that was, I think, the perfect order. They hit the Jeeves, trashing it for 2 virus counters, Rashida for 1, just clearing the tag, not worrying about the trace itself. And I think if Eric can just hold the board down and click for credits and just trash whatever goes into these remotes, that's probably good enough. Bridgman a bit far away from contesting a hard-hitting news, and again, their economy also has dried up. We're not seeing any pad campaigns. We're not seeing any Rashidas firing. This is going to be a bit of a
this is
a grind out.
This is definitely an uphill climb for Bridgman right now. I know as a CTM player, like right now, I'm like scraping the bottom of the barrel for my outs. I'm real nervous about like trying to figure out how I can get those last couple of points against this combination Amakua and Data Sucker Yusuf.
So this was something that some of my viewers pointed out. We were looking at the deck lists, and I think this is the only Anarch competitive deck list I've seen that doesn't run Stargate in it. And Eric, I think maybe we can see in the heap, might have had a turning wheel at some point, but yeah, they did. So at this point, they're going to have to win on single axes, which, you know, sometimes you can just get unlucky. You don't have the additional pressure without something like Stargate, but I feel like Amakua, Yusuf, and Data Sucker and Freedom's ability can just do enough damage to hold the board down.
Yeah, that daily business show, we've seen it res since we joined this game, so we know it hasn't been doing the all-game work of filtering the agendas to the bottom. So R&D is still kind of an unknown.
There is a other side to this, though. They've run out of cards in the stack, so there is only 2 cards left in grip, and I don't think there's any way to recur. So any damage could end up being a kill. And it is CTM. There is going to be some way to at least either kill or swap around agendas.
If I'm not mistaken, this list only runs 2 psychographics as a punishment. So as long as Eric doesn't hold more than 2 tags, 2 tags still is pretty efficient. Hitting that hard-hitting news in hand, trashing it with Freedom's ability, but not a lot of ice. There's the psychographics, and hippoing one of them, and even flowing a tag. I think Eric realizes a single tag, not a lot of punishment here.
Completely unthreatening now, agreed.
Also, something in server 14, unchecked, was installed last turn. Not sure what you'd have to play around, what you're worried about leaving on the table just here. I don't think there's a Lady Liberty in this list. There's nothing that demands immediate attention besides naked agendas, which is a bit of an ask from Bridgman.
Having a look at the list right now, there's actually nothing that actually deals damage. So Bridgman's actually kind of on the back end here. As many Whiteman Blade can probably take as many tags as he wants, and the only issue would be Psycho.
Yeah, but it's worth. it's worth noting that normally even 2 tags would be dangerous because you can install Psycho for 2, advance and score out, but there are no more Beals left in the deck, which means that Bridgman is going to have to score a 4-2 in order to close out the game. They could score an AR enhanced security with that, but that's not doing them much good.
It's worth noting that Psycho's X install cost, I believe, counts as 0 when it comes to Freedom. Oh, but it looks like here we have hard-hitting news. Bridgman's going to throw the book at Blade here. I think they can make the trace strong enough. Now, Whiteblade does have 5 tags. We know there's a Psycho in hand. So Blade could decide not to clear the tags. Looks like that's the option. And just trash Psychographics for no virus counters. So not a lot of threat here. Checking a Mumbad Virtual Tour. Now, that's going to be 5 credits because they already used their Freedom ability. Have to actually pay the cost. They're up on 6 tags. It's all about that last Psycho. Is there any in archives? Now that's the first Psycho. So there's another Psychographics floating around somewhere. Checking it on R&D. HQ has a food. It was the last other card in there. Oh my god.
Ooh.
Wow, wild. Surprisingly coming down to the wire, but definitely at the end of that game, it seemed like Freedom kind of had more control over the board state.
That must have been an exciting matchup again. Controlling the message actually is. I know not the favorite identity to play against on casual tables, but when you see competitive players respecting all the outs, respecting all the options that they need to, can get always very exciting. You see that tag meet just at the end of the game, and it always, you get those photo finishes. And Blade figured it out. Trash the Psycho, goes back in for the pressure, tries to check all the centrals, and finally fishes out the last food.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason that I have such an adoration for CTM is because it does present so many lines of play. Normally, you're only given a X amount of servers to run, but when you have to prioritize threats and where they can affect you, it's a real test of understanding the corpse board state and your own economy in order to tackle all of those challenges in the right order. Floating the right number of econ.
So that's all pairings. Round 1's completely done right now. So if we want to have a look back at Cobra and see what the final results are for round 1.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I'm not too savvy on the arcane math, but it looks like we have the pairings up already for round 2. So for those following at home, basically for the next pairings, they're going to try and force you to play the opposite of what you played. So if you played Corp in round 1, you're more likely to have to play Runner in round 2. Now, if it comes to a match where both players have played the same side on the last round, I believe at this point it's actually fully randomized and no longer cares about strength of schedule. Someone in chat can correct me, I suppose, if I'm wrong. So we're seeing the matchups here. We already have round 2 pairings. And again, 2 players, if I'm not mistaken, will be they'll reach the end of their road at the end of this round. Is that how it works out? I think that has to work out like that.
It is double elimination. So the pit players the 4 players who lost their first round are now in the lower bracket, and if you lose in the lower bracket, you are out. So we will be saying goodbye to 2 players today for this round. From the looks of it, it will be the QBM versus Bridgman match and the Labbies versus Shadowshot 666 match that is the lower bracket. So 2 Titan Transnationals actually in the lower bracket. And then
worth noting, round 1, every single game was won by the runner. Longi beating out first seed QVM, Whiteblade beating Bridgman, Inactivist beating Labis, and we saw Meek beating Shadowshot, every single one of them running.
So we also got some, I think, some of that clumsy pairings of sorts. It looks like Bridgman's going to retain the Corp as the Shadow Shot, so we'll have CTM and Mirrormorph hitting the tables again.
Very cool.
Is there time between rounds, or it looks like we're jumping straight into it, huh?
I believe there's 5 minutes just to sort everything out.
Perfect.
Sorry. Just for everybody in the stream, if you are watching on Jinteki, please do not watch on Jinteki through Spectator. Watch here. Watch on Twitch, where there is a bit of a bug where if you have too many people watching Spectator on Jinteki, it blacks out and makes the server all laggy. So please watch only on Twitch.
That's a very important note to follow.
Absolutely. Well, what table do you all want to watch?
I think there's actually multiple tables. I'll leave it up to you guys.
Let's see. So we probably want to watch something a bit different. If we want to see the full Longi, what corp is Longi on at this point? I think they're on
GameNet on table 6, Meek versus Activist. We just watched Meek though, so
yeah, I think we saw everybody.
The Australian match though.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
So for those who are unsure, Inactivist is one of the Nisei OP organized players, and Meek is one of I believe New Zealand. One of the ANZ players who's really well known around here. So that's probably our best bet for a good game. But there's also Whiteblade, who's national champion for how many nations now? Just asking.
At least 2.
He conquered the United States, so Canada outdoing the US as they are wont to do.
Yeah, I think we traded last year, if I'm not mistaken, Canada and the US. You want to try table 6?
Let's watch table 6.
Tasman Showdown.
Trent's Tasman Showdown for young Mikolas.
So Meek is New Zealand, so this is going to be a very interesting battle of the ANZ. So everyone just there is a bit of a ANZ rivalry, obviously, but it's all good fun. Yep. That should be everyone as spectator. So if you are trying to watch these games, please don't watch through Jinteki. Please watch through our streams, because Jinteki is still a work in progress in all senses of the word. But you can always, but we do have to give a huge shout out to the devs of Jinteki, who, without their work, this entire tournament and probably a lot of Nisei would not be possible.
Oh, absolutely. Especially right now during the pandemic. All of our gaming is done through Jinteki pretty much.
I forgot I owned physical cards this year.
I finally
the other day.
I didn't own Uprising. Finally ordered it.
Oh no.
Well, you're in for a treat, let me tell you.
I know there's supposedly a lot of good art on it. I don't know.
All right, we got 419 here against GameNet. GameNet, one of the newest ideas to hit the table. I'm pretty sure we're going to see something that's close to an Asmari reskin, a rebirth of some sorts. We're looking at a 45-17 for those who don't know this new identity. Whenever a corp card ability causes the runner to spend or lose a credit, they gain a credit. You can get a lot of credits through that during a run. Whenever ability is generally pretty scary. We also are standing at 17 influence, a bit higher than the norm. If you have the list on your side, you can see that this is basically that sort of Asmari shell. Now, we are a bit of a bigger deck size, so we're not only on 6 3-pointers, we're on 7, but we still have those cute double echo chambers in there to give a little headache to Mike. Has a lot of stuff to stop squeezing that through the remote server.
Small note, we are on Jinteki, so GameNet has to be manually activated. So that is something that a lot of players actually forget about. So we'll have to see if he's got all the triggers for GameNet.
Oh gosh, he I saw a bit of this being played yesterday, and it was a pleasure to watch. One of the things that I really underrated about GameNet, just watching it, is how much it increases the mental tax on just trying to figure out and assess the runner versus the corp credit pool. It is a lot more of a tournament tax than you would expect.
Ouch! Boomerang into
what a turn.
division.
Not only boomerang into diversion, an activist going to be on 0 credits. That daily quest is going to go down for 1. So an activist left with no money, maybe 1 ice rezzed on HQ, and that's going to be it. At least Gold Farmer is one of the more taxing ones for boomerang. That's still going to take 2 credits away from Mike. Whoa, that's actually really fascinating.
You see, this is why you can't count the mental math out of this. Although I guess diversion does take it all away, but still.
Yeah, diversion gonna get it back, so you're still gonna end on 3 credits if you want to take the money. Which again, daily quests, you only need 1 credit to trash it on Axis, but it looks like Mike is definitely gonna take all that money away. This is totally worth knowing at the start of the match that this GameNet is technically an honest GameNet, what I would call it. It doesn't have any hard-hitting news tricks, no C-source, no additional win conditions besides scoring agendas in a remote. So that money obviously is going to be of the utmost importance. I think we have a single or 2 of a defensive upgrade. We're looking at BioVault, which can be pretty fun on a taxing remote, and we do have a triple border control, but it's going to all be about ice and scoring windows. An activist, not much of a riposte to that play besides click to 3. Mike also going to follow a very similar plan with an additional draw in there. And we're off to a somewhat slow start after that explosive first turn from the runner. Upgrade on HQ.
Definitely
looking at the list. Looks like a Chrysium. That's the hope. And again, we're seeing this in almost all of the top cut decks, which is absolutely wild outside of Titan. All of these decks have 2 Cyberdex Virus Suites in them, which again, I'm assuming this 419 list is going to be running a multiple Amakuas. Haven't seen one hit the table yet, but definitely one of the best counters to prevent the runner from relying on that single program to break through large servers.
That'll be the ice on R&D. So also all centrals except for Archives iced, which is what you really want to be when you're playing Corp early game. But there is a paperclip in the bin, so technically you could just go straight through the Gold Farmer. It will cost you 4, but it's everything's not as easy as it looks right now.
Not only cost 4, but gain an activist too.
Because of GameNet. Oh gosh, it's an idea.
Yeah, quite a bit.
So for those following at home, Turning Wheel hit the table. You might have seen a strange interaction. There's actually a shortcut on Turning Wheel to bounce HQ to get the counters without doing a run. The idea is that Mike would have just ran into the Gold Farmer and let the end the run subroutines trigger, and that's kind of a way around it. Might be a bit confusing, but Mike putting the pressure on building up those Turning Wheel counters, and now has money. We have a Sure Gambler following up Dirty Laundry, up to 14 credits, and Activist is 8. And an Activist not that close to building a remote server, although Mike isn't showing any breakers besides that paperclip in the bin.
Right.
For those wondering, end the run unless the runner pays 3. That is a either or. You can you choose whether to end the run or pay 3. So he's totally fine to just end the run, end the run, end the run.
We got something on a remote here. We'll see if an activist pays that credit to deny the expose. It's now just about information. Otherwise, you are going to be worried about Amakua getting counters. It looks like not going to save a credit to show Rashida in that remote. IPO taking an activist up to 13. And that pop res, I love that. That plays around the falsified credentials. Mike would get the 4 credits so they can call that out. And Ngolo on the table. A very flexible breaker. Used to be restricted if you asked a month ago. Now just a 4 influence, very powerful, flexible breaker.
Exposing the border control, protecting Rashida. Might still be worth it to go after it.
Yeah, I think it might just be. Ngolo breaks for 4. Otherwise, you can put the paperclip down and get for 6. But Mike is going to force the res here, make an activist spend some money. Looks like going to go for the paperclip plan just to get that on the table. There's no arc lockdowns to worry about. I think this is technically more expensive, but this is a really big thing. Again, we're at the top cut, so lists are public and they're published. So Mike knows running and accessing, or just even making a run and being down 3 credits to 10, you don't have to worry about hard hitting news in this matchup. You're totally fine.
Right.
Not only that, but I'd probably expect 419 to be running Bravado. So 3 credits is not 3 credits in this deck.
Very true. Very, very true.
Install Advance the remote is going to be followed by falsified credentials. Seeing a degree mill in server 1, not a card that gives positive tempo to an activist. It's the only tempo negative agenda that an activist has, but a very hard thing to deal with at this point. If Mike wants to steal it, they have to shuffle 2 of their cards back into their stack, and right now all their cards are either expensive or have additional value installed on top of them in terms of the turning wheel. So it's just Bravado and HQ. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think you're okay. If an activist scores this, they go down to like 4 credits, and that's not particularly amazing.
Right. It's a painful prospect for both of them to swallow, I'm sure, but one of them gets you closer to winning the game.
Scoring that out.
Yeah. It's an interesting choice because if you had to shuffle 2 cards back in, it'd probably be Paperclip and Turning Wheel. That's still an issue. Yeah, it's an interesting decision.
It's certainly a painful prospect. Imagining right now that Mike is probably drawing all of his tech cards once again.
Lag.
Citing lag, might have not wanted to draw that many times. I think at this point of the game, Mike has enough breakers to threaten something, but probably looking, I think this list, a lot of the criminal lists I've seen are running 3 copies of Class Act. You want to get that down as soon as possible, just not only get the burst draw, but also to improve the quality of 1 draw per turn in a very meaningful way.
Just for notice, Meek did discard the turtle from the grip at end of turn, so he's not deciding to play the turtle.
Yeah. In the list on the corp side, we do have 3 IP block, so that is going to be pretty annoying to deal with if you're depending on turtle. And I feel with an Ngolo that might be just enough. Install advance, NGO front being triggered just right off the bat, not worrying about Paul up, not worrying about any sort of falsified credentials, just a good old honest spend your turn to get 6 credits. And there's the Class Act, eh?
Yep. Gains 3 credits and installs Class Act. That's 8 cards down the grip.
So this can be a very explosive turn with 8 cards worth of options. Mike has played some bravados. That pad tap can go pretty far. Rizeki getting that down. Hunting Grounds. Not going to deal with too much ice in this deck. I think the only thing is the slot machine. Or the IP block, excuse me.
Yeah, those are cards. But again, probably the biggest issue is pad tap needs to be trashed. That is really good drip. 2 credits a turn is nothing to scoff at.
Yeah, and they can kind of trigger it at will also off of GameNet's ability.
Yeah, I think anything that you choose.
So basically, pad tap fires on both the runner and the corpse turn. Usually, you just only rely on firing on the corpse turn. So that's huge.
So I take that back. The Hunting Grounds is actually pretty good against the Turnpike. It's going to stop you losing a credit, gaining a credit. Looks like you want a Hunting Grounds fire there. Turnpike is Trace 5, pretty hard. Not sure you want to Angolo that. You can pay 4 with the 419 starting link to get through that, or just float the tag. This remote, we don't know what it is. The prevention of the expose was paid for. We have 1 NGO front out. This could be a legitimate agenda.
Trace initiated. Trace is still strength 5. Trace is successful.
Yeah, just taking the tag. It's credits are more important than clicks here, so that's the calculation that Mike was going for.
Now, do you pop the ball control or do you reveal it's an NGO?
I feel like if you pop this deck has 3 border controls, but that border control only gets stronger the later the game goes. I think if this is a Bologna, you're okay with Mike stealing that. Oh, border control being fired. Now, this is really important if Mike doesn't go back. Like, if you trade the border control for an agenda, but if that agenda goes through anyways, Mike's remote server looks so much worse.
Absolutely.
And again, we know there's no real tag punishment, as in like game-ending tag punishment, no hard-hitting news, no boom. So this tag largely only represents the safety of Mike's resources. Mike Giving, I think, has 3 credits, 3 clicks, excuse me, to deal with this. And I think we've only played one Deuces Wild. It's sometimes a nice surprise card that lets you deal with the tag removal and run, get you that click compression in. Drawing up a class act.
Yeah, it's interesting because this Turnpike is actually non-trivial to get through because so much of this 419's board state is based on these resources. So he needs to figure out a way to just deal with it. It's not inconsequential. It's definitely more impactful than I'm used to Turnpike being.
So pad tap in theory should fire here. It's unfortunate that that is also not automated based off of the game net not being automated. It's also worth noting that if you do go and boost into the trace, that's technically considered spending money due to a corp card during a run. So game net will also fire on that. So wow, boosting to a trace 7. Mike doesn't have the clicks to remove 2 tags unless they have a Deuces Wild in hand. No, not even. And that's a Bologna. 5 credits to steal. Mike going to take it down to 3 credits, 2 tags. An activist is probably going to be able to trash something on the other side of the table. I think it's the turning wheel, the hunting grounds that needs to go.
He's very economically fragile, though. It won't be. It'll definitely.
Well,
be,
that's one tag gone. If he decides to, there's Deuces Wild.
Oh, I think they could have done Deuces Wild to remove tag and run the remote, and probably would have been able to get rid of everything. But Mike going to float a tag here. An activist, credit, hedge fund, pat tap. I think Mike should have another credit due to pat tap, and just trashing the turning wheel. Going to leave that hunting grounds on the table. Mike going to be able to clear the tag and stay in the game.
And there's a Citadel Sanctuary to just get rid of the tag anyway.
So 5 credits and 1 link. Oh, it's going to be a bit more credits with that dirty laundry. I don't think an activist is going to spend credits to make that tag stick. But now those tags probably will all be removed, not only clicklessly, but for free.
I have to ask, has anybody else seen a lot of Citadel Sanctuary? Because it's still a pretty powerful card. It's just not popping up in a lot of decks, I think.
I've seen a fair bit of it. I'm pretty I've seen a lot of Wayland lists with dedication ceremony into CityWorks project. I've seen a lot of punitive decks. It's very good against CTM or any tag stuff. I think it's just such an absolutely flexible card. I've even seen Shapers starting to play it, mostly Haley lists that can get that free install. I think obviously slots are tight, but in terms of tech cards, it's I think one of the more flexible ones.
Yeah,
another pad tap.
419's running at least one Citadel Sanctuary. I expected to see more CTM, and Citadel Sanctuary is such a good choice against CTM because it basically neutralizes the ID tag. You need to score an Ares for those trashes to become thoughtful again.
Yeah. As also any runner with 1 link, obviously that becomes free, which is so enticing. 419, one of the easiest to get value from. Looks like we're just kind of bouncing back and forth. Pad tap. Again, in this matchup, it's a bit awkward. An activist probably missed a credit off the Bologna steal. I think that should technically count as well. You really need to stay on top of your triggers when it comes to playing game net on JNet.
An activist thinking as we start turn 14. We're starting to get into the mid game here, as there's a Biovolt that's just plain resed. Hey, it's a Biovolt, unadvanced.
So I was about to comment, like, turn 13 again, like how bad an activist's remote server looked. And again, we're talking about a very honest deck that is going to try and score agendas in the remote server. Biovolt, obviously a hell of a card. I think Mike's list might have a single Paul up, which if it gets into an HQ run without the Chrysium grid, that's going to be a big deal of dealing with the Biovolt. Paragon hitting the table, going to get some credits and filter draw when running just archives.
I think a lot of the current board state of the game net can be owed to the turn 1 trashing of that Rashida too. Just you can already see just how, or was that turn 2? Just how impactful a Rashida 3 extra cards right now would have been towards the acceleration of this board state like 2 turns in the future, right?
talk about hot slots. No one home hitting the table. 0 credits, 1 influence if you want to play this out of faction, but a virtual resource that not only deals with tags, but deals with net damage. In terms of flexibility, absolutely astoundingly powerful. It doesn't really remove the tags, it just resets the trace. Very good against a hard-hitting news deck. I think we're going to see Mike use this just for value. If you want to go through Turnpike, go ahead and trace again if you want to spend money into it. It makes any of the traces really hard to use. Double advance on the Biovault. It's important to know Biovault not only for that remote, you can use that anywhere. So even if there isn't a Crisium grid on HQ, a diversion of funds, you can vault that. Border control on the remote. Or sorry, boomerang on the remote. Yeah, charging in here. Just wants to get the Biovault down and trashed before an activist has a chance to jam in the remote. That is an IP block. Again, trace 3, but I think we're just going to break through that with the paperclip. But this is a big reason why you don't want to rely on Amaku in this matchup.
Might as well boomerang it. You're not using that boomerang for anything else.
And that's basically a turn wasted because you loaded up a Biovault for effectively no value, and it's just going to pop for nothing.
It forces the runner to run and interact. Unfortunately, that remote wasn't that taxing. I think an activist could have had, at the end of the day, like, unfortunately, the toll booths aren't going to be particularly good with hunting grounds. This Turnpike is going to be dealt with for free with not only hunting grounds, but the Citadel Sanctuary. And I think it's just going to be a 2-credit tax from Mike to go ahead and trash that Biovault.
Right.
Again,
that being said, we got rid of a boomerang. Well, it's going to go back into the stack, but it's still a bit of a issue.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting play. Biovault, you could have popped it there just to prevent the boomerang from being shuffled back. It requires a successful run. It would have prevented also the Paragon credit. It's actually an interesting option that might have been worth pursuing. Citadel Sanctuary, clicklessly removing that tag. An activist still jamming in the remote, hoping that it's taxing enough. Oh, it's a Rashida and another ice.
I bet this feels like a breath of fresh air for Luke right now. Hopefully sticking a Rashida.
Rashida pop res there, again playing around the falsified credentials. It's a 4-credit card, class act, filter draw. Only 16 cards left in the stack. This list, Mike's list, doesn't have multi-access besides the turning wheel. I'm not sure. I have to check whether they have a second, but they might have to just either camp the remote or get lucky singles. We're going HQ here. Gold Farmer going to be 2 credits, +1 from the pad tap, +2 an activist. So many triggers. We're going to get a successful run. There probably is an agenda in here, but it's been a couple turns.
Yeah, definitely fishing for that Crisium. This Miss Bones going to basically be an easy mark's worth of credits. Just for trashing the Crisium, possibly more further down the line.
Yeah, trashing Crisium for free is incredibly strong. Crisium probably going to get trashed. Miss Bones making that very easy. Seeing the second Biovault. In terms of recursion, maybe this list has a single preemptive action, not even. So anything that's trashed is going to be out of the game. Those 2 Biovaults are permanently gone. Paul up even on the table.
Oh, yeah, and immediately uses it for the Rashida. That's pain.
A lol in chat, an activist definitely wanted to fire that Rashida.
Political operative in this meta is always going to have a target in Rashida.
I love that pressure, right? Like, there's still a window to trash Rashida no matter what, but when they are forced or at least encouraged to pre-res their stuff to play around falsified, Paul Up gets so much stronger. It's kind of like that old councilman Paul Up situation they had to play around. It's worth noting that Mike now is not in the credit lead. Only 2 credits, 1 coming in from the Rizeki, and an activist can still jam into the remote. I guess it's 1 more credit with the pad tap.
Right.
Yeah, they might have to call it. Yeah, should can. Hopefully we don't have to call a judge for this, but everyone's... oh dear. We're having a bit of a chat.
In terms of triggers, I think I don't actually know what the tournament rules specifically state. It's probably a bit tricky, but it's important to know that GameNet does not say that you may gain a credit. It's forcing you to gain a credit. I think same for PadTap. Let me double check. PadTap is May. So if you miss PadTap, it's not a breach of the rules. But if you miss GameNet, technically that is something wrong with the board state. So judges can quickly get involved in that. It looks like they've sorted it out pretty well. falsified credentials getting pulled on the install double advance. It's a Bologna and server 1. 5 credits off the falsified. Is 7 credits to Mike's name enough to get in there and steal the Bologna? They're going to have to access with 4 credits on top of the Paragon. An activist might just have it here. Mike might have spent a bit too much money.
Because you gotta remember that you have to spend 5 credits to also steal, and I'm not sure if you can get in for 2 credits. And there's no stim hack or anything in this deck, is there?
No. Mike's still going to give that a shot. Slot machine on the outside. This is something that you could use the hunting grounds on that prevents it or it forces it only to have a single subroutine. It looks like it's event resource event, so I think we've missed that hunting grounds window.
Yeah, that's whoops. Oh yeah, HG.
Yeah, that can be a big whoops.
That's
Mike,
it's an odd time. It's an odd timing because you have to remember to activate hunting grounds.
Yeah, I believe on JNet you have to do it in the sort of approach window. You have to hit it before you encounter.
Yeah, use prevention ability during approach after ice is rest. So there is a bit of a timing issue, but hopefully we can sort that out.
It's something I think that was changed over JNet in the last couple months. So there's a lot of players that are running into some clumsiness with that. So this is pretty awkward because not only is a missed trigger, but it does show both players what's the top 3 cards of the stack. Mike is just going to undo click and try it again. Now, I guess both players know that there is a bravado coming off the top into a diversion of funds down the line. So the pretty good draws, but Mike is just going to roll that back.
Luke, explicitly calling it out. You just got to hit that hit hunting grounds before the slot machine res you didn't know was there. That's how you do it.
There's actually a window, so he reses, and then you use hot slot machine, and then you go from approach to encounter. It's because you might actually notice this when you play JNet. Whenever you approach something, it doesn't force you to encounter immediately. You have to go, oh, okay, go to make another click, go make a proceed.
All right. Yeah. This 3 credits is going to be enough to prevent me
you don't
from
have to break anything.
Yeah, they're paying 3. You don't have to, but if you didn't, they would lose 3 so that the game net would gain 1. I guess you would gain 1 with Pat Tab, but Mike just offering to pay 3 to break that. And it looks like triple advanced score is going to get the Bologna, getting 5 credits back to Activist. And Activist is now on game point, either scoring one of the other 5 threes in the deck. I believe there's still 4 left, or just that Echo Chamber. Paul Up also a very good target for Echo Chamber, but I believe we only have 1 in the list, and that's not coming back.
Right. Honestly, Rashida was a good hit. That's always feels good.
So I just need to pull up the deck list real quick, but there's a chance that we don't have another turning wheel in this match. I would be surprised if 419 is only on 1.
Yeah, there are 2.
Okay.
So I'm sure Mike is looking for the other turning wheel. That's his only source of multi-access.
Both turning wheels are in the heap.
Oh, beans. That's going to be a problem for Mike. Mike's now best chance is just to camp the remote server. We've only single NGO front, and 2 biovolts are out, so I guess it's more likely there to be an agenda. Also, no res on R&D. Maybe you can go in for singles, but yeah, not any multi-access, not a legwork even.
And now Mike is in the unenviable position of needing to check server 1 every time a card is installed. So all of those 419 preventions are going to mean a lot.
So Echo Chamber, the magic number is 4. It's going to take your whole turn plus 4 credits to res. So this diversion looks really strong, but if there's an Echo Chamber in here, an activist can just res it to dodge that diversion of funds. Otherwise, it will be a credit short. It looks like if there's no res here, probably Mike doesn't have to worry about the remote server. So no trigger. So it looks like that's not the Echo Chamber. Likely to either be the final Rashida, I suppose. Could also just be a Cyberdex Fire Suite, anything that baits the run.
NGO front, sure. Are all the NGO fronts gone?
I think we've only seen 1 so far. Mike firing the pad tap.
For those wondering, Gold Farmer activates when with GameNet. So when they So whenever you break a subroutine on Gold Farmer, you lose a credit. That fire causes GameNet to fire, which causes Pad Tap to fire. It's a nice combo.
Oh no, Inactivist saying pre-res is a thing. Whoops. It might be a bluff, but might just show that Echo Chamber was in the remote server. Easily could be that could have been a game-winning play to pre-res that. Again, Mike. As Mike says, am I being rude? I don't know.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people know how to play around diversion, so I'm not sure if this is a ruse.
Well, if it is, there's no threat of you don't go after it. Like, there's no chance that they can gain a credit and then score the Echo Chamber, right?
And that's the scary thing is, like, you can't run. Like, if you run R&D and if it's something, I guess you could Hunting Grounds a Turnpike, but most of the runs that you're going to make are going to gain credits for an activist if you hit ice that, forces the loss of credits. Single off of the R&D. Looks like no dice there. An activist starting their turn on 3 credits, just 1 credit short of that Echo Chamber victory, if it's possible. I'll wait a turn regardless. An activist might just want to click for 3. Just get some money. I think that's the second diversion. I think besides getting to the remote without pull-up, diversion of funds is the only way that we're going to get a large credit loss.
No, it's an NGO front.
All right. Good ruse.
Yeah, ruses all over the place. But now that server does not look nearly as comfortable against to defend an Echo Chamber in there. But anything Luke puts in there is going to have that prevent expose. So Mike going to have to check everything that gets put in there. Yeah, if you're GameNet here, you just keep putting things complete garbage in that server until 419 is in a not great position.
So there's only one Bologna, which is your most defensive agenda, which is obviously the best to put in server 1. We have another piece of ice. Fired NGO front on the corpse turn, which I think might be a bit unfortunate. It means that Pad Tap is going to get more value. If you wait for the runner's turn, you can make sure you fire that after a GameNet trigger fires the Pad Tap. So Mike's going to start the turn on 17 credits after the Rozeki. Just going to pressure R&D.
The latest ice is a border control, so you have to run server 1 twice if you want to get that agenda.
That's a good.
Okay.
Sheeta trash. That's a good. Anything that goes into the server 1 is definitely worth trashing before you have to go run and find it. Class Act getting trashed. Another one coming down. Going to get that burst draw and that filter.
There is one really good side to the corporate to the 419 right now. 14 credits and Rozeki continuing to tick. They haven't trashed the Pad Taps. There is money.
Yes,
definitely. While Inactivist is currently on 6 credits and lost a credit trying to defend R&D. So it's going. I don't think GameNet has this weird issue. It's very different from Asmari because Asmari passively always will give you the credits. With GameNet, if the runner doesn't run, you don't get money.
Right, Asmari is much more front-loaded.
There's the final diversion. Going to get 2 credits both ways from Pad Tap and GameNet going through that Gold Farmer. But if an activist is down to 3 credits, there's a chance they can res R&D ice. But Mike needs to keep that pressure on an R&D to ensure that an activist can't easily draw their win condition because it looks like they don't have that Echo Chamber in hand.
Everyone gains 2 credits from the Pad Tap versus GameNet.
4 credits
and immediate run on R&D.
Yeah. I have a feeling that first ice is either a border controller or another desperate surveyor too. So,
how many border controls is in his deck?
Triple, I believe. So we know where 2 of them are. One on archives, one on top of server 1. But we're looking for the last one. I think if there's 2 border controls on server 1, that is a safe server. That's the 3rd class act, and no, that's the last class act. Excuse me, from last turn. Or is that the 3rd class act? No, that's the 3rd class act.
Yeah.
Inactivists asking him to steal the SSL just to get more money. Just that. Honestly, in situations like this, it is one of those things where you're like, I'm okay with it because they still need to steal another agenda, and I'm going to get 9 credits out of it because I'm right now I'm just out of money.
Activists know there's not going to be any more econ denial. I think we've seen all 3 diversions. That's largely it. So if they can just get their money up, again, 4 credits is the magic number, and they don't have to worry about diversion. So in theory, if this card is not advanced, it represents the Echo Chamber threat.
Absolutely.
An activist also could plan 2 turns in advance, maybe jam an SSL 1 turn. If Mike breaks the bank trying to steal that, not only will an activist get the credits back, but will maybe have the window the following turn to score at that last Echo Chamber. But here, an activist is threatening to win.
We don't know what it is. Prevent card from being exposed. 419 is one of those IDs where it's just like, yep, I'm just going to lose a credit every turn, aren't I? Oh, but there's Bravado, so he might get enough money if the Bravado fires off.
10 minutes left in the round. I think we're going to actually see a full conclusion to this game. Paragon and Bravado is a boatload of money. Single Axis gets a Bologna. Mike now on game point. 5 credits. An activist should gain a credit from GameNet. That should be 2 more for Pad Tap.
That is still 5 credits to steal, but it's a... and of course, here comes all the Pad Tap and GameNet fires. Okay, so 8, but that's 18 credits to try and run server 1 if you want. But he's not going to. He's going to go for R&D a second time.
So the math on server 1, let's see what the single axis could be. Could be the game. Again, okay, nothing there. All the defensive agendas are out. Now Mike is running the remote, has 2 clicks to deal with border control. And it might look like if an activist reses the border control, they won't have money for Echo Chamber. But again, so much of this ice, if they deal with it, they will get the credit back from GameNet, especially when it comes to the second time through the turnpike, or it depends how the hunting grounds is used. But as long as an activist doesn't end their turn with 4 credits, they should be fine. Like in theory, Mike can jack out here.
He's thinking about it, because you can only fire hunting grounds once per turn. So if you're going to fire it, it has to be now.
Yep.
And you won't be able to use it for the next run, because border control is going to kick you out, no matter what that is.
An activist will definitely be getting some money during this run off of either Turnpike or the Trace on IP block or something, which makes the math again kind of fuzzy. Slot machine this time around, it looks like.
No hunting grounds activation, so program hardware event, it's just a -3.
So yeah, an activist, I think Mike could have walked away from this. 2 credits isn't threatening a lot. Without any Rashidas left, in terms of unadvanceable threats, really, this could be only the Echo Chamber. Daily Quest could just be sitting there, even a Chrysium Grid, anything basically just to bait a run.
We are missing a GameNet trigger here, but everyone's... Oh, no, sorry, that's a break. Never mind.
It was a break. Only had to break 1 because it was Rejiki, Paragon, in special order.
So Turnpike, Hunting Ground's going to prevent the on-encounter, so we're not going to get that credit swing. Patap hasn't fired this turn, if I'm not mistaken, or it did off the Bologna, if that's been the same turn. It's been a long one. Turnpike Trace 5, you can just take that, tank through it. Citadel Sanctuary will fix that problem later on.
Meek has the option to avoid tags with no one home. Sorry.
Approach server 1. Let's see if border control. It is an Echo Chamber, and I like this. An activist just going to let that trash happen. Popping the border control there lowers incredibly lowers the value of the remote going forward. But that is 1 Echo Chamber down. It's important to know this list has 2. If Mike can trash the second, an activist is back to install a double advance, which is a pretty expensive play. Now, the SSLs aren't going to matter anymore. That's a lot of money that's in the deck, but as soon as one is scored or stolen, it's the end of the game. So in terms of economy cards, you have a lot fewer options. I think we're only now on 2 more IPOs, and if a daily quest could even stick.
There is 5 minutes left in the round.
I want to point out here how smart that run was on Mike's part. He neglected to use the hunting grounds on the slot machine, just breaking it with Angolo, and use the hunting grounds on Turnpike to keep an activist much more economically bereft.
So Chad is talking about this, and I'm pretty sure that's the way it works. But if we do hit the 5-minute timer, basically when time is called, the active player finishes their turn, their opponent gets to finish their turn. From that point on, if it's a draw, it's the highest seed that wins. Do we know who that is in this matchup? 4 minutes left in the round.
I believe it's an activist. An activist is second seed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So time is
an
can be
activist
pretty
is
tense.
technically third, but drop it.
Oh, right.
So drawing in Mike, 14 credits, knows they have what they need to run their remote twice in a turn. Full information on what is there. We have a gold farmer on the outside of R&D.
Here's a question. R&D is really with oh no, never mind. We've already got that answer. R&D is just being run on, and it's a gold farmer on it. So it's not 0 credits to just continuously spam R&D and see if you can snipe off the top of the deck.
The first one is actually not free, right? Because you lose 4, gain 2. Single access on R&D, no agenda. An activist gaining 2 back. Oh man, this might go to time. I don't know if an activist has the credits to be able to score an agenda out. Obviously, the more Mike interacts with GameNet, the more credits they will be giving an activist, and that's exactly what they need. 5 credits is all they need to threaten to win.
Credit. That's just boomerang for the R&D run.
You're going to see players playing faster and faster. Sorry, like you saw that boomerang slap on the table. Mike knows they only have so many more turns left in the game, and if they can just get that lucky single, we know there's 3 more agendas in these 21 cards left in the game.
Just everyone going, okay, gotta go through set credit. Thinking about the res, there is 7 credits, but you're going to go probably back down to a uncomfortable 3 or 4 credit. Can't score anything out with that, and he doesn't res.
Single access on RD, Paragon getting that credit, getting that trigger. Is that the winning agenda? No dice.
If we could please request that spectators not join through Jinteki.net, but go straight to Project Nisei on Twitch, that'd be great. I'm just seeing a few people join spectator since this is the last match of the round.
Right.
So now we're coming on game point. I think one of the bigger deals here is that we don't have Bologna's left. So as long as Mike can do the perfect calculation of getting into server 1, they know they can steal whatever agenda is in there. We're going to get a trash on the ice on R&D for an overinstall. That's going to strand the boomerang. There's no way to get that back into the stack. So that is it is a waste of a boomerang, I suppose. Double Rizeki also clicking away, but an activist is technically now threatening a win with a jam in server 1. Again, 4 credits is all they need to threaten the echo chamber. Mike is probably forced to run that remote.
There is less than a minute left in the round.
Now, if Mike
so
wants
this
to
will probably be the last turn. Sorry.
No, all good. Yeah, if Mike wants to have a second turn, they need to act quickly. That obviously is hard to do all the calculations and all the good old math. So they're going to go run R&D first, hitting a slot machine. Looks like they either decided not to or missed the hunting grounds window. Mike commenting how they're in such a bad spot without the turning wheels. We got hardware event resource, so only 3 credits lost. You can break that for, 4 within goal if you'd really like. Or 3 within goal, excuse me.
Yeah.
And then Gold Farmer, you'll get some of that money back with Fat Campaign, thanks to GameNet. And that is time on the round, as mentioned in chat. So we're going to have to discuss how this is going to be his last 3 clicks.
So yeah. Mike knows an activist, as long as they trash what's in server 1 or access it, there's no way an activist can win from hand. So I still think an activist is the higher seed, if I'm not mistaken. So if Mike wants to win, they need to get accesses. So I don't even think you run server 1 unless you think it's an agenda, because an activist is going to take the win regardless. If that's how the seeds, the strength of schedule works, if I'm not mistaken.
5-minute warning would have been nice. Oh, I think we've been running for 40 minutes. You have to have in your head at least a note. The other thing is, do you think there's... And he's drawn an agenda from HQ. And it's
there might be something at HQ. There really might be.
Yeah, it's pretty high likelihood that there's something in HQ.
The R&D approach.
Paragon triggering for a credit. Single access here off of R&D. That's it. The
SNL. And Mike wins.
Final run. Well, they had more clicks, but like right down to the wire again. There's probably a couple more agendas left in there. It's only a Chrism grid in the remote.
Oh, that's well so good. Now it's a 41-minute game, over 146 credits spent on the runner.
Jesus.
Some good stuff.
Very impressive.
You see the value of those tech cards, like the pull up, the hunting grounds, but even like just the pad taps. I don't think an activist had the economy to deal with those pad taps. You're in a really unfortunate situation when both runners are up to 6 points with no SSLs being stolen, or scored. But those pad taps probably gave Mike 20 credits easy.
Okay, and so we were watching an upper bracket round, I believe. So that means an activist is going to go to the lower bracket where he'll duke it out in the doldrums down there.
And meanwhile, we will see Meek go to the upper bracket final. So he only has one more match, and he can go to the grands. And that will be that's pretty big for New Zealand. New Zealand managing to go into top 4, I believe.
In terms of the lower bracket, if I'm not mistaken, Shadow Shot is hit the end of their road, taking an 8th or 7th place in this tournament. Obviously,
actually,
really good run. Sorry? Oh, I got the wrong way around.
Go look at Cobra. We're just getting the round 2 update. Labs runner lost against Showshot Corp. So Showshot goes through. QBM, who was first seed and is the Swiss player, defeats Bridgman runner win. So, and then Inactivist and Meek wins. And for the other upper bracket game, we do have White Blade making up. So the upper bracket final will be Meek versus White Blade.
Awesome. So Shadow Shot stays in it. That means our HB representation is going to keep kicking. Bridgman, unfortunately, does find the end of the road. Playing a very interesting, I don't think we got to see the Tag Me Anarch, the Hoshiko, if I'm not mistaken. Definitely really exciting to see, but well done to all these players making it out to day 2. A top 8 cut out of a 43-player tournament. Some very competitive play as well. Definitely not something to be disappointed about. Team Canada also continuing to kick some major ass. So you got this, Eric.
Everyone. I have to support the New Zealands. It feels a little not very patriotic, but ANZ has to stick together. We have to get besides our differences and make sure that at least someone from the region takes this home.
All of the Australians and New Zealanders, people from the region, are still in too. Meek, Shadow Shot, and an activist, of course, who we just saw.
So we got a couple rounds coming up. We have only 3 tables left, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
I think we want to remind y'all, if you're just tuning in, if you want to spectate the games, please do not enter the Jinteki.net lobbies. If we have too many people inside the lobby, it can cause crashes, which will be an issue. So kindly just watch on Issei's Twitch channel, which if you're hearing us, I guess you're already there. So please keep that in mind. Thank you.
For those wanting to know, White Blade 111 versus Meek will be the upper bracket final. And then the lower bracket semifinals will be Inactivist versus QPM. QPM playing Corp type Transnational Inactivist 419. And then table 11 will be Shadow Shot as runner Haley Kaplan versus Inolgi as Argus Security.
I think we have a minute just to catch our breaths. It's been a while. Maybe we have more viewers tuning in. Do y'all want to do a roll call of who they're listening to?
Yeah, let's do it. Hi everyone again. I'm Patrick Burke, commentating for Nisei, once art director, once player of the game. Always lovely watching this, and we are watching the Asia Pacific Continentals. First one that's been had so far, so it's wonderful to have you all here, and I hope you enjoy the game. I'm commentating with Drop Bear and Andre. Drop Bear.
Hi, I'm Drop Bear. I'm Adelaide player from Australia. I've been doing Netrunner since 2014, and it's been really fun to have a talk with you. I may be dropping off very soon to make up with our second guest of the day. who's a very special guest, but we'll see what happens. And of course, we have the Metropole Grid here.
Hey.
Would you like?
Hey, my name is Andre. I'm from the Metropole Grid. I've been making some Netrunner content for a while now. Super excited to be up late on a Saturday night / Sunday morning to catch what the other side of the world looks like here at the Asia Pacific Continentals.
Perfect.
Again, this is worth saying. We have 3 Continentals, 3 weekends in a row that Nisei is running. It does not mean you can participate in any Continental. You don't need to be within that region. The only rule is you can only participate in one. Now, we do have some good representation from people from the Asia Pacific area playing in this tournament. A lot of players from Australia and New Zealand. But we have people from all over the world up at all strange hours playing some competitive Netrunner.
Yeah, I think
Not only that,
Whiteblade is on the losing end of that. Him being in Winnipeg, Canada right now. Gonna look up what time it is right there.
I think it's like 11:30 or 10:30. So still, not, it probably doesn't have to light out, but a couple good more hours of brain function, I'd hope.
He was
it's also important
during the break between round 3 and 4. He was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe there's a break."
It is important to note that if you there is 2 more next week and the week after, so you don't have to be in the region to participate. It's so if you're from Asia Pacific and but missed out on this week's tournament, you can go into Europe, you can go into the Americas. That is an option.
If Whiteblade wins this, you can take revenge and beat everyone at North America.
Oh, we're getting a couple of requests. What match do you want to see? Do you want to see the upper bracket or the lower bracket?
I wouldn't mind specifically to see the upper bracket. I don't think we've seen Whiteblade's corp so far.
Yeah, it's a very bog standard type from what I remember.
I think we're probably on 2 Titans, QVM and Eric, so we gotta pick one Titan, I suppose.
It will be Titan Whiteblade versus Meek Runner 419. There is currently 4 with the 2 eliminations, 4 criminals still in the place, 2 419s and 2 Leelas. But Haley and Freedom are the only other runners. That's quite interesting.
So I think we're predicted, right? So we have one top table. From here, we'll get into the losers semifinals, if I'm not mistaken. I think the winner player takes a breath while they wait for the losers semifinals to finish. And we are at double elimination. So one of the players between Eric, Whiteblade, and Mike will be undefeated. When they get to finals, one of them will get to finals. In the finals, whoever comes up from the losers brackets has to win 2 games in a row, while the winner's finalist only has to take 1 game off of them. So comebacks, you see them all the time on Netrunner table. So it's just a bit of a longer road from those coming up from lower brackets, but definitely still possible.
That break you get from finishing out the upper bracket finals too is, for real life tournaments, it's so essential, being able to just take a mental break, walk around, get some water, that sort of thing. Maybe less so in this setting where we've had a pretty brisk couple of games so far, and this one is looking to be pretty fast as well, with Titan in Whiteblade's hands.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are into our match, the upper bracket final. Winner goes to the grand final and has a 1-game advantage. Titan Transnational versus 419, Whiteblade versus Meek, New Zealand versus Canada.
Titan Transnational was the most representative corp, I believe, in the whole tournament. 3 of them making it to the top cut. It's every single click in this matchup is so important. Titan Transnational can go so fast. It's a really strange matchup because in some ways it's the most reliable, consistent corporation when we're talking about Atlas tokens allowing you to pull in your other combo pieces. But you've seen so many of these matchups where Titan fails to draw in their Atlases, the most powerful card they have, and you can get into these really awkward mid to late games where Titan probably isn't favored.
Right.
we're just blasting off immediately. Ashfur blocking the first diversion of funds. So Whiteblade knows what to stop, and that is diversion of funds and another ice being red sandstone.
Sandstone being used primarily as a blue-green version of wraparound, just low res, high strength, and synergizes with all of the antivirus tech you're already running because you're Titan, you're doing fast advance, and also we're in an Omakwa meta.
Mike just face checking, planting to that sandstone, threading the turning wheel counters, but also just lowering the strength of the sandstone. Jacking out there, I think you want to hit the end of the run on the sandstone to lower the strength, but still getting turning wheel counters. There's no really good bounce here for that turning wheel, but that multi-axis is so important in this matchup where you need to lock the top of R&D. If I'm not mistaken, this 419 list, I'd have to check. I don't think it has Stargate. This is the 419 we just saw. So all the pressure they're going to get is through the turning wheel. Yeah, Mike realizing they should have hit that sandstone for a virus counter. This also is not a 419 list that has embezzle, so in terms of keeping the corp down, there's very little disruption outside of the diversion of funds. We're one boomerang away, one Amaku with a counter away from that getting in, but you still need to find all the slots, and you don't have that many turns. 7 credits is with Biotic Labor, you can score that Atlas out of hand, but Eric just icing up.
We're already at turn 4. Jeez.
So this list, again, very fast. If you haven't seen Titan Transnational lists, they have multiple ways to start scoring out of hand. They have the Audacity for 0 credits. For 1 credit, you can get Atlas out of hand. You don't mind throwing out everything you're holding a lot of times. We could see a Biotic Labors. I think it's either 2 or 3 of in the stack. You have red level clearance on top of Dedication Construct with Reconstruction Construct with Dedication Ceremony. There's just so many options that Mike has to respect. And we got a hostile out. That's good money, a point on the table, and a bad publicity from Mike.
That's too bad publicity. So, bad publicity is probably a bit of a risky strat against a criminal deck who already gets a lot of money. Although, to be fair, right now, that is a 3 iced transactional. 3 ice on HQ is interesting, honestly.
What the game plan is for Eric just to hole up on centrals, not even bother trying to rush. Because between boomerangs and Amakwas and general criminal tricks, maybe he's thinking it's not worthwhile to even try building a remote to rush. He's going to rely entirely on fast advance techniques.
Yeah, with no clot threat, I think Eric can totally get away with scoring from hand. And talk about scoring from hand, Biotic Labor for 4 credits going to give those 4 clicks that Eric needs to score out an Atlas. Atlas with the counter, we are off to the races. You just have to draw 1 combo piece. Atlas will pull the second one. A single Audacity from here can get you very close to closing the game. You score the second Atlas, you're 2 hostiles away, or just another Atlas fast advance.
Exactly.
Does this deck play too big to fail, or any low credits gain massive amounts out of nowhere?
Yeah, there's I think 2 or 3 too big to fail. One was played in the first turn already, so Mike already on 2 bad pub, no way to capitalize. There's also some risky face checks on that last turn. That outermost ice could have been a Trebuchet. Hitting that turning wheel with the Trebuchet would be absolutely phenomenal.
Red level clearance, such a good card. My favorite downfall card. It's so modal and it's so awesome. Looks like this is going to be an Audacity. Oh my gosh. And now they have 2 loaded Atlases. This is a really bad spot for Meek to be in.
This is technically game if they get the money. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. It's so important. Mike finally finding the Ngolo, hitting that on the table, getting to 2 bad publicity. They can get through a lot of stuff. Still going to be pretty expensive. Here they could lock the top of R&D, but with 2 Atlas tokens, I think Eric just needs more cards in hand to be able to Audacity out. Exactly. And they have everything they need.
Honestly, at this point, you can get out the. I'm not sure how many points you're spending on the Biotic Labors, but Biotic Labor and another Atlas is technically game, so that's 7 credits.
Too big to fail. Too big to fail. So if you draw the Biotic, you know what you have to do.
Another option is you could go for the 2 more hostile takeovers. Now Eric is 1 credit short of threatening out this turn, but they probably just click up for credits, and that's the threat. As long as you have enough cards in hand.
This is a 4 dig on R&D, so using all of the turning wheel tokens.
So I think the best thing Mike can find here is not only the last Atlas, but also the second hostile. That prevents very easy win cons from Eric. Still a lot of options when it comes to dedication reconstruction contract. Mike actually
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5 cards, nothing.
Oh gosh.
No trashes either.
White blade. God, I'm good at Netrunner.
So Audacity can score an Atlas out for a single credit, but you need, I think, minimum 3 cards in hand. So Eric can just draw 3 and threaten it out. They know the cards they're drawing are not going to be agendas, so not much they need. Their credits are not even that useful. I don't think a diversion can come through this turn. I don't think there's enough money. But Mike has 1 turn to stop this from falling away again. Atlas token into Atlas, Atlas token into Audacity. This is going to be a very short game. If you get 1 Atlas on the table, that train just flies out of the station.
Blindingly fast.
I say GG, but it wasn't GG. It was BG.
You just looked for the what the image was as well.
Yep. Why didn't you score out? You can't.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the money and doesn't have enough cards for Audacity.
So this turn, Eric is threatening the win. It's pretty hard to disrupt. Eric could also use one of those Atlas tokens on an R&D run to bring the Atlas to hand. With 2 bad publicity, maybe there's a chance Angolo gets through on an Axis. Turning wheel, you could build up. You could just bounce off the Hordem, but that diversion is going to be pretty important if that gets through. That buys another turn. One of the few disruption cards that Mike has access to in their deck.
Now, what you could do is you could do one of these Atlases for a hostile and Audacity that hostile. And then if you do have an Audacity in hand already, and then use the final Atlas counter for another hostile. But I mean, it's just multiple different ways to get a 2-turn win at that point.
I'm also assuming there wasn't too big to fail in the hand, so
just to get that money. Pull-up is actually very interesting. It lets you deal with reconstruction contract. Now you are going to need the 4 credits, or it's either 3 or 4 to trash, which Mike isn't threatening this turn, but that does do a lot of work against these Titan decks. Too big to fail, getting played. So again, Eric is back on threatening game point. Mike has to do something, and I believe we know the top 2 or maybe 1 card of R&D is nothing that matters.
Right, 1 card, I believe. So Mike could go for another dig, I suppose.
I'm not sure if he can find 5 agenda points in with 2 new fresh cards.
Yeah. That Atlas, you can just pull the hand if they go like really all in on R&D, and I think you can close it off there. Mike is going to need an absolute miracle here. Largely, he's going to have to find all the points. Another diversion. Perfect.
Hey, if it works, it works.
That's not going to do enough, though. I think Eric just needs to start with 1 credit to be able to Audacity at the last Atlas. It's going to be hard to deny all 9.
Yep, credit perfect.
Diversion going through, resing the Afshar. Eric can even can't afford to res that Afshar. I think that keeps the diversion out, but even if the diversion goes through, 1 credit is all Eric needs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can't math. Oh no, that's never a good sign.
Now, the Afshar face check penalty of the 2 credit loss does get eaten by the bad publicity. I just don't think Mike has time to bounce off this with turning wheel. Again, if they run R&D last click to dump the turning wheel, Eric can just take whatever they need to hand with the final 2 Atlas counters.
I think this might be it. They're going to do 1 more run on with a turning wheel to see 3 cards from R&D.
Fire all taking the tag. Nothing matters here.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of that would turn this back into competitive in the least would be seeing the final Atlas and the final hostile. But I think at this point you just use an Atlas for an Atlas, right?
Yeah, totally.
I think at this point you're praying for government takeover.
Come on, 5 points is correct. 3
This
accesses. The
also
deck was
does shuffle R&D, so this is 3 new cards.
Just 3 agendas. That's all he needs to find. All 3 of those top cards need to be agendas.
He gets the new... Okay.
Eric pulling the new construction. It looks like Eric either has the biotic labor or the audacity in hand. Otherwise, they wouldn't have pulled for another agenda. But the agenda density on R&D pretty low. It's probably what, like 2 food, 2 hostiles. Hitting a cybernetic fire suite. And that's it. Looks like Eric comfortably has that. How many turns are we on? Turn 10? Well, that sounds pretty good.
Stall, advance, go for the game.
Titan rolls, it continues to roll. Not a lot Criminal can do about that. You don't have that Stargate pressure. You don't have Wanton. It's very hard for you to threaten cards out of hand. And, you know, triple ice on HQ, double on R&D. You don't see that. But Eric really understood that they needed to keep those accesses out to have a much better chance.
Congratulations to Whiteblade, who will be making it to the grand final and with a 1-game advantage. We will. That's pretty big, honestly. That's. I think Whiteblade might be our first champion if anybody has anything to say about it. But we do have one more person that needs to face him. So, do you want to go see what other games we've got?
Let's go watch Shadow again with the Haley.
So, yeah, it's worth noting that Mike is not out of the tournament. They're just going to drop down to lower brackets. So they do have the redemption route to go. They can find themselves back in the finals to get their rematch.
Do we just... In the second we open, it seems there has been a flatline. Oh, no. So,
it was single tag high profile target, I think is what just happened. Oh, is a double high profile and a single tag, if I'm not mistaken? 4 damage?
Yeah.
You don't see that every day.
We'll have to jump into QVM versus Inactivist. So this is Seed 1 versus Inactivist. And a dedication ceremony, an immediate reconstruction project trash to score out at Project Atlas with Titan Transnational. Oh dear, here we go again. We're watching the exact same game.
Wall-to-wall actually being used, which is a delight to see. I have not gotten to see wall-to-wall in action too much. But
it's everything you want. It's the advancement sometimes matters. You got the ice walls, it's the whoredoms, you get the credit, you get the card draw. It's actually pretty okay in the list. And we're seeing something very different here where QVM actually took the time to build a remote. They did just score an Atlas last turn, so the train has pulled into the station.
For those wondering, there is 25 minutes left in the round. This has been an extremely fast round 3, so and it might go even faster. We might be looking at sub 20-minute games.
QEM playing hedge fund. Honestly, I don't even know if Titan lists classically play hedge fund. Sometimes they just want to go that fast. Discarding 2 cards, digging into what they need. Again, with the Project Atlas token, you only need to draw 1 fast advance piece, and the other one you can always pull with Atlas, the agenda, be it the audacity, the biotic labor. QVM threatening all of those with 9 credits to their name. Wall-to-wall also aggressively digging into what they need.
Note, there is 2 advancement counters on the unres dice in HQ. Do we know what that is?
I think it's either Whoredom, Icewall, or Mouseless.
Right. I like wall-to-wall in these decks because it reminds me of the old Illegal Arms Factory versions of Titan, where you just have 3 of those just ticking away, drawing you 4 cards a turn. Yeah.
An activist
I'm
getting
so glad that was removed. Sorry.
Single off of R&D, opting not to get that double access with turning wheel, but continuing to get that wheel spinning. 3 cards unknown in archives, but there is a CVS in there, making that Sandstone stand mighty once again. Now, that's what's cool about the wall-to-wall. You probably can't take the time to run through 2 barriers and trash that, let alone it's a bit difficult with the single and Golo, but QVM probably can score an Atlas from hand here. Pretty unlikely they don't have what they need. It looks like we are going to score something. It's a reconstruction contract. We're going to dedicate that out, putting QVM on game point using the Atlas token, though. And that's a really big deal because, oh, wait, what? Oh, it's a reconstruction. Sorry, I thought it was a city work, the new construction. So it looks like we're going to trade an Atlas token to get another Atlas with another Atlas token. So QVM is threatening game point if they draw either one fast advance piece or the final Atlas.
Right.
Go find those Atlases.
Go ahead. Yeah, 419 is in more trouble, in trouble in more ways than one with how low they are on credits. They can't even properly threaten HQ and R&D consistently.
One bad pub. And Golo, again, not only an expensive install, but not the cheapest breaker. If you have to do anything besides, break anything besides code gates, you can get some runs on R&D. You can also probably just smash that Hordem, give them a credit a run to get that turning wheel up. But again, you're at this really awkward spot where if you try and dump all your turning wheels last click into R&D, that allows QVM the safety of using the Atlas token to rescue the final Atlas if they have what they need in hand.
I think at this point you kind of have to assume that they win next turn, especially with 8 credits. They can get whatever they want. If they draw a Biotic Labor, if they draw the Audacity, if they draw the Agenda, that's a 3/2, it's game. So you have to start hitting and you have to start making risky plays. Maybe just go through Horton. No, you can't go through Horton. It is an end run. I'm thinking of Morseless. There's gotta be, you gotta just make random runs, I guess.
You can run Hordem for 2 credits with the bad pub, let the credit fire, you get 1 back from pad tap. You can get accesses, but again, there's just so much that you need to do at this point to prevent the win. Diversion could be okay, but again, Audacity is still a way out. I still think you'll have enough money for a reconstruction contract, let alone you are getting a credit at the beginning of turn with wall to wall. I think an Activist really doesn't have a chance here. Down 0 points to 5 with an Atlas token. I don't see what you can do besides running RD and stealing 7 points in a single run.
Right. We're definitely at the point where he needs to sniff out an Atlas, and so maybe Luke bounces off of R&D, gains a turning wheel counter, goes back in and does a 2 or 3 dig, hoping to fish out Atlas. Make QVM fish out an Atlas with the Atlas counter, and then go after it in hand. And then you have a 1 in 6 chance of getting it in hand if you even have the money at that point. It's a wonderful prospect.
I don't think they have the money. Best case scenario, Ice Wall on HQ for strength. Even just though a Hortem though or a Mouseless will be strong enough there that I don't think they have the money to pressure R&D and HQ. Good thing for an Activist is they know this is probably their last turn, so they can take the 20 minutes even to take their turn and figure out what they need to do. But again,
I think a judge might be asked over for slow play then.
Yeah, if it takes that long, probably.
There is 3 face down in archives, but I'm pretty sure those are not agendas. So there's not much here apart from R&D, and maybe there might be a secret card in HQ.
Yeah, always those foods sometimes get clumped up in hand. You don't really want to score them out. They got Audacity out anyways, but it looks like an Audacity wasn't played. So those 3 cards in archives are probably not looking too appealing. An Activist running R&D, first click. They could bounce here if they don't mind giving QEM the credit. I don't think the credit matters too much. 7 is the break point for Biotic Labor.
Right.
Oh, hey, I hadn't noticed.
Yeah, I don't think they saw the run start. An Activist was deep into the tank. Angola boosting up using that bad publicity. You don't have to break both subroutines. Looks like they're only going to break the end to run. That's going to fire the pad tap, give an Activist a credit back. Very valuable on this turn.
Doesn't even want to do a bounce for the turning wheel. Just goes for 2 cards. No, he's not even going for the... he's not even activating turning wheel.
Single axis, firing Paragon, getting a turning wheel counter. 3 clicks left, only 3 credits. 1 more bad pub on any run. Turning wheel can see 3 from HQ, but again, that's probably not good enough unless the Atlas is already in HQ. But I think they use an Atlas counter for an Atlas counter, so that seems incredibly unlikely.
Right.
Ashfur can be broken, but the what we're assuming is the Mausolus that's been upgraded is a bit of an issue. Bravado.
Bravado for their mode, just bouncing. That's just 3 credits.
That's
fine.
money.
Nactus up to 6. Again, only 2 clicks left to figure out how to steal probably 7 points in a single turn. Again, the tallest of orders, but an activist still playing to whatever their marginal outs are here, hoping that maybe QVM doesn't have what they need. Going back on R&D.
I don't think. Yeah, he doesn't think it's in HQ, which I do agree with. He would have won the game already if it was in HQ.
He's going to try to fish it out and then try to grab it on the 1 in 6 chance out of HQ.
Thing is, as QVM, I don't even know if you need to pull the Atlas with the Atlas token. Like, we're only going to see 3 cards here. You know, one of them isn't the Atlas, so you're looking for like a 1 in, or technically 1 in 2 in 21, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or he just gets 2 points. There's no 3/5s in this. Sorry, 5/3s in this deck, is there?
Food is the closest to that, but technically not 5/3.
Yeah.
Triple axis of R&D. QVM is thinking whether they need to pop the Atlas token. With 4 credits, an activist might be able to get back into HQ, so you might not want to risk 1 in 6. You can crunch the numbers whether the 1 in 6 is better or worse odds than what you think it is already right now, knowing the top card isn't the Atlas.
It's a 1 in 7.
You don't want to shuffle the deck.
In HQ is what it is.
Hitting a CBS as a second card, purging, not a lot of effect. And triple axis, not even agenda. An activist has 1 click left, just slamming HQ to get a single in if they can. And there you go, Ice Wall, 4 strength.
Which is going to be enough, possibly, to bounce this out, I think. Yeah, 2 to convert, 2 to boost, 1 to break, and then you can't get through the offshore.
Breaking it anyways to get through. Yeah, that's not going to do it. So an activist not even going to get a single axis there off of HQ. And QVM with 9 credits. Again, we don't know whether they have it. The wall-to-wall will draw 2. And again, the cards that they saw off of R&D weren't stealable, trashable besides the CBS. So we only know they're going to draw 1 worthy card. The CBS largely doesn't matter. But they easily could have it with the Atlas token. They just need to have a Biotic or an Audacity in hand. Wall to Ice Wall. Man, just free boosting the Ice Wall for free. That's not too bad off of wall to wall. Well done, wall to wall.
Useful against some Aqua too.
So, Nisei, just asking, what was your decision behind allowing Titan to still survive in the new...
So Titan's like a very interesting balancing point. Obviously, it's always been a strong identity. Having ways to interact with fast advance obviously keeps us down in disruption. But the next rotation will lose Clot, which is one of the only strong ways to deal with fast advance. So I think we're going to have to see something obviously to replace it. QVM starting their turn though. Wall-to-wall drawing 1. Oh, an activist seems like they saw an Audacity up top of the deck. So you know what? That's it. Audacity pulling the Atlas. And QVM triple Atlas. We've seen 2 Titans triple Atlas. They're pulling it off again. If that deck doesn't draw Atlas or score it out, it is in such a rougher spot, but good draw on both sides. Titans are going to just chew the way through.
Yep.
Astro Train rides again. And another turn 11. Play a very fast games, even with this one taking a little bit longer than the rest because of a bit more. It's the White Blade was playing extremely fast for Jinteki. But I believe that's all games have been played. So why don't we have a look at the double elimination setup for how the rankings went?
So this is the break for the upper bracket where Eric can take a breather. Round 4 is the lower bracket finals. So we have QVM and Longy facing off. Whoever wins this match will be into the finals. Now, in the finals, coming from the lower brackets, they need to win 2 games in a row against Eric. Eric only needs to close 1 game. So both of these players still have a chance of taking the Asian Pacific Continentals, but they still have a bit of road ahead of them. QVM looks to be playing Corp against Longy's runner.
we will be taking some of the time as a small break. So looks like we're going to have a nice stretch and relax. Because the winner of QVM versus Longy does face Meek, and then the winner of that will be facing Whiteblade. So we still have 4 players left in the tournament. And it does look like that I will be dropping off for the rest of the day. It's been a great pleasure to be talking to you guys and watching these fabulous games. Thank you very much for having me over.
It's been a total pleasure.
So looks like we're going to have a short break. Thanks. I've been Drop Bear, and we've had the Metropole Grid and Blue HG over.
Yeah, I'm just gonna step in here very, very quickly. Thank you so much, Dropper, for this. This was awesome, very high octane games. You've seen it live, of course. It's just titans, you know. They're just gonna titan all over the place. But we are still waiting for the players to set up, and there's gonna be indeed a short break. I'm just making sure that our lovely TOs are on top of things, which they always are. I think QVM is already setting the table up, but let's just take a... Oh no, that was just popping up for a second. I think we're gonna be jumping in here. In the meantime, please do take a look. If you're curious, we have the bit.ly link there on the screen. You can see the deck list. So while we have the commentating going on, you can be looking at the cards the players are using today in those top 8 decks to kind of see, you know, the odds. Do your own maths, as Andre would say, and you know, enjoy it a bit more. In the meantime, also, there will be another raffle going on, and I don't know if you've noticed, dear folks, but there has been a certain piece of graphics showing up every now and then on the screen that you may not recognize from any card just yet. So that's the scoops I promised you yesterday. I'm not gonna say anything about it. I'm just gonna say all the animations are done by the amazingly, mind-bendingly talented Krembler. This art right now on the screen is the Archer put together by Akira, and this, if I remember correctly, is Robin Hood, the Robin Hood statue in Nottingham. So, you know, just saying. But there will be some other animations popping up here and there, not only this weekend, the next weekend, and the weekend after that, and so on and so forth. Animations until the end of the universe, probably. Anyway, they are setting the table up. There's a rematch for Longy. That's the title of the table. I will be cutting my comms as well right now, just to make sure that we do have people hopping in. So that, of course, includes me clicking the amount of windows I've clicked today to make sure that we are in the right spot is scary. But yeah, okay, Andre and Pat, you're gonna be staying on, right? Just to confirm.
Oh, it would be my pleasure.
Absolutely awesome. This is super great and so much fun to have you here. Okay, I think we have another 10 minutes in the break. Yes. So for the next 5 minutes or so, we're just gonna drop you off with some music by the resident DJ, who's absolutely awesome. That's gonna be the next 5 minutes is gonna be let's call it maybe the personal touch. Yeah, that's gonna be Trip Mirror from Belfast, Northern Ireland, just for you. See you in around 10 minutes. And yeah, the raffle on the stream is still going strong as well for a few more minutes. Do jump in. I'm gonna get some water myself and stretch. See you in a few.
Hey, Vesper.
Oh yeah, sure.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Are you mixing the stream right now?
Yes, I am.
Can we get a shout out in chat? Vesper waking up at the crack of dawn just to get this going. Obviously, production has been fantastic. Huge shout out.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm actually gonna go into live television after this, I guess. No, I'm kidding. The amount of screens is just scary. So thank you so much. I do have good inspiration, you know, people who are actually commentating today as well. But just saying, yeah, hopping out of here for a sec, muting all the audio, and coming back to you in a few minutes with Longy versus QVM or QVM versus Longy. And yeah, see you in a few. I will have to cut the music brutally short because I think we do have the table popping up. I'm just gonna hop in there right now, and I'm going to also jump in on Discord with the audio. We do have a special guest. Hello there.
Having changed names kind of means that for the first few years you sort of excessively enjoy being called it.
Hello, 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 hello. My dear guests, are
Totally
you live and ready?
understandable. We'll go to Morgan then.
Okay, hey, are you live and ready? Now I should be audible in all the possible channels.
Are we actually live at the moment?
There's
Like,
actually
can they hear us
millions of
talking?
people listening to you, yes? Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Hi everyone. We're just, chatting a little bit.
You should be hopping onto the table where QVM and Longy are gonna face off. So I'm leaving you all but Anzukai. Why don't you tell us a few things about yourself before the game starts, and I'm gonna leave you with Andre and Pat to continue the lovely commentary for this.
Yeah, absolutely. If we are indeed live, then I will introduce myself.
You should.
Hello, distinguished guests. We are back from our break. The table is being set up now. QVM versus Longy. QVM on Titan, Longy on Leela, which should be an interesting matchup. I am Patrick Burke, and I am commentating this. I'm joined by Andre from Metropole Grid and Morgan. Morgan, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello everyone, I'm yet another one of the Australian crew, except I'm from the West Coast, the area where many of us still exist, but we don't get talked about as much because we're one of the most isolated cities in the world, here in Perth. But I am a game designer and narrative designer, writer, and I was previously for a good sort of 18, 20 months or so, I was one of the developers at Nisse and also the QA lead, aka playtest coordinator, and also a bunch of other things. You probably read a bunch of my articles during spoiler seasons for both of the Ashes sets. I also penned a short fiction piece for Gachapon, and just a bunch of other stuff like that. I kind of did a little bit of everything that needed kind of doing. I even occasionally helped you out a little bit, Pat, and also Duncan, the current art director as well, just sort of bouncing ideas around. I kind of get attached to cards and like get very interested in like all the different facets of them, and I think that can make things a lot more interesting to work with. So yeah, I did a bunch of different things. So, but I am here to do a bit of commentating. I did play yesterday. Didn't make the top cut, obviously, but considering how little standard I've played in the past 2 years, I'm still pretty happy with coming 17th.
Wonderful. And we are off to the races with QVM starting with a hostile takeover. Of course, getting that point, neutralizing Leela's ID ability. This is going to be really interesting because Leela's ID ability is one of the few things that kind of puts a little bit of complication in Titan's normal fast advance plan.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Titan versus 419, and we're seeing criminals struggle to find intelligent ways to interact with Titan's plan. Diversion of funds, as we're seeing here on an Uniced HQ, one of the few ways, credit denial. But again, Titan can score a lot of things out of hand for very few credits outside of biotic labors. So yeah, that Leela ability is a lot more interesting than the 419 expose. Gonna go in there for a single after with the Dirty Laundry, stealing an Atlas from HQ. It's such a huge hit.
That's massive, absolutely.
QVM, man, dude.
So I've been talking to quite a few of the players in the top 8, like both today and yesterday, and I definitely think that Leela has a vastly stronger matchup against Titan than 419 does. Not just because of the ID difference, but also because the Leela decks do tend to have a somewhat more aggressive slant to them. there you have the inside jobs that inevitably get added. You have potentially more like other run event related either economy or just a sort of aggressive focus, and I think that just really helps a lot against Titan. And then yet the ID is potentially crushing.
Longy smashing into HQ there, finding a reconstruction contract, that getting trashed on top of the dedication ceremony access. That feels pretty good. Trashing Rashida and then going back into the top of R&D. Longy's deck also, I think, has slightly more multi-access than some of the criminals we've seen before. We're seeing the standard 2 turning wheel, but also there is a cheeky single Maker's Eye in there, which Longy can pull out in a pinch.
Interesting.
And a legwork.
And a legwork.
This has a lot more diversity of approach for dealing with Titan's threats than...
That's the second Atlas taken.
Okay, so we've seen 2 games in a row where the Atlas train just keeps on rolling. Playing a Titan without Atlases is so much harder. QVM has now such a more difficult scoring pattern. They probably have to score a global food initiative. Otherwise, they have to hit all 3 hostiles and a new construction and the last Atlas, give or take. Yeah. I think that math ends up right. So QVM very not favored with 2 Atlas being ripped in the top 3 turns. Longy, mad fingers.
I feel like I've come in and started commentating and talked up Leela, and now look at what's happening immediately. I'm so sorry, QVM. What have I done?
CVS access off the top. I don't think you want to value purge. I don't know if you need to trash that. That's a pretty bad draw for QVM. You want to keep the quality of the draw down. But Longy now on game point outside of the final hostile takeover. QVM, not even an ice on the table. Leela's ability is probably going to be blank from now on, I guess. Yeah, I don't think Leela's ability is going to matter too much, maybe on a score.
So I'm getting...
For sure. And that's just another on the long list of problems for Titan right now.
Oh man, QVM's path out of here is so difficult. It probably does now with the hostile out. Involves scoring a global food initiative. I think that largely requires reconstruction contract. I don't know whether QVM's list has a red level clearance in it, which I think is necessary in that combo. So you need a lot of combo pieces in your hand just to even threaten out a food score.
Yeah, I think to get a fast advanced food score in this list, you need a combine like a reconstruction contract with red level clearance and either biotic or audacity. So you're already looking at having to have 4 or 5 cards in hand just for the combo, including the agenda. That's QVM really difficult.
Not even. Yeah.
So QVM's list unfortunately doesn't have the red level clearance. We're getting a boomerang on this remote. It's pretty desperate here. Sandstone going to be easily boomeranged. We're going to get through that, get a single access on whatever it's in server 2. Could be Rashida, could even just be an agenda. It's just a Rashida trash for free with bad publicity. And we have a Taproom ticking away. That's actually pretty good money in this matchup. And QVM probably doesn't have the time to purge. We know there's a CVS in HQ, so QVM could just wait until Longy collides with that.
Right, so I've finally went and dug up the deck lists. Yeah, so it looks like QVM's running triple biotic and an archive memories over having any red level clearance. So I think that means like you need biotic, audacity, and the Recoco combo. So yeah, that's 4 cards plus the agenda in hand, just to score a GFI out of hand, which is going to be extremely difficult.
Very unenviable. Agreed.
Special order for that Engolo hitting the table. Very good lineup with that Whoredom. Single access sees that HQ biotic labor once again. Now, in theory, if you don't run R&D, that's a bounce later down the line, but Longy going aggressive into there. 5 credits, just going to res an Ice Wall. Kind of annoying with Engolo. You're going to have to spend 3 credits, 2 with the bad pub. You can get a single access here. Again, Longy on largely game point outside of the 1 hostile in 27. Single access.
I mean, Longy single accesses have paid dividends.
So you don't need multi-access. You got those good singles. They're good.
I mean, even pulling another hostile is going to be a really big deal at this point anyway.
Whoa, fast track for the last Atlas. Does QVM have a trick here? Otherwise, they can just keep it in hand and hope Longy doesn't have that 1 legwork into 1 card in the grip. Keeping that 1 and 5 means they, with the biotic, if there's no diversion, they can threaten that score out.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty good line. So it's going to cost Longy 3 to get in, or 4 to get in if he doesn't want to, if he wants to deny the 1 credit gain each run to have a 1 in 5 chance without the legwork to get it. And this also means that QVM does have the opening to just score that Atlas out next turn, or even in a turn or two if he wants to try and save up a bit more money first.
So Longy going in here, I think the best draws would be diversion, spending 1 click to draw into either legwork or diversion. Hitting the Whoredom, bad publicity makes us a bit cheaper. Boost and break. We'll see if Longy values to break the credit gain or just a single subroutine end the run. Going to go for both. Single access could be the Atlas here. New construction.
Oh,
That-
God.
Ready.
Okay.
That's game. Yeah, immediately.
Pulling the Atlas with another agenda in HQ. So brave.
Oh,
Probably the only
and
way
2
out
in the
they have.
bin.
massively flooded. There were apparently 2 agendas in the bin as well.
Damn.
Ever had that feeling that a mulligan was bad? Yes. QVM, I think that was exhibited here. Painful start.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we talked about this a bit before, but Titan Transnational, if they get the Atlas train down, they're one of the most reliable corps having that universal tutor. But if that Atlas train doesn't leave the station, it becomes so unreliable. It's really feast or famine to get that first Atlas off the ground. Otherwise, it's really hard. You get those foods in hand, you can't score those out. New construction requires a lot of support. You can see these hard swings in any direction. And you know what? That's it for QVM. Longy going to make it to the finals. Longy versus Eric Whiteblade. Longy's going to have to win 2 games versus Eric's 1. Longy, worth noting in terms of the narrative, was the 9th seed. Did get promoted into the top 8 cut because we had a player not able to make the tournament today. So Longy has quite a journey to get here, and I'm really excited to see where it goes from here.
Actually, 1 more game prior to that. There's Longy's got to play Mike. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, Longy's got to play Mike.
Oh, excuse me.
Right.
Oh, yeah, you're totally right.
Yeah, so we've got the lower bracket finals, and then we'll have the grand final.
Excuse me. Yeah, so just a bit of a longer road. Mike just knocked down in the last round versus Eric. What are we left with? I think we still have 2 Titans. I need to check the matchups.
Mike
Do we still have 2 Titans?
Is Longy playing Titan? So, because I know, I believe Mike is on GameNet.
I think Longy's Argus?
Longy is Argus, Mike is Outfit, and then Whiteblade is on Titan. So all Wayland, but all different Wayland.
Yes. This is, yeah, I mean, this is pretty normal for Wayland, honestly. I think at the moment, Wayland just has the best ID options of probably any faction in the whole game.
I think they're just the fastest right now, and with a runner that can pressure as long term as these 419s with Regikis can, I think you just need to close the game out fast and pressure early as much as possible. And Wayland IDs really lend themselves to that.
Yeah, exactly.
Either by going very fast or by going pretty fast with a nasty backup like Argus and Outfit.
Yeah, the Outfit deck I'm very fascinated with. It has multiple win conditions. We're looking at tags. We're looking at punitive counterstrike. They can also aggressively score out with a lot of 3-pointers. They score 2 of those plus a hostile, and they're out to the races. Again, it can be a very fast matchup.
One thing I want to point out about this Argus deck that Longy is piloting is the inclusion of Spiderweb as the barrier breaker, obviously being a choice to fight back against the prevalence of Boomerang in a lot of these criminal decks, because Spiderweb has 3 subroutines to Boomerang's 2.
Yeah. Not too bad also against Paperclip. Still 3 credits. It's okay for 4, but yeah, that Boomerang tech is definitely well considered. So it looks like we're going to see Longy versus Mike. So Longy on that Leela that we just saw. Mike is the Outfit player, if I'm not mistaken. No, let me check. Yeah, the Outfit. Fantastic. That's going to be an exciting matchup.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the case for this one.
So you can check out the public checklist. So the deck lists are public if you want to take a look. The outfit deck list, we're looking at a very elegant 8 agenda suite, 3 SSL, 3 CityWorks project. We're also looking at some really hot tech with reversed accounts that you can dedication ceremony to get that to the very quick 12 credit sweep. On top of that, we have hard hitting news and punitive counterstrike. So 2 lethal meat damage options. Hard hitting news would lend itself into a boom. A big point is it's going to come down to the tech cards. I don't know whether Longy's Criminal is running. No, they're actually not running a Citadel Sanctuary. That's largely the only meat damage protection card we're seeing in the top cut. They also don't have anything like a misdirection, of course. They don't even have Deuce's Wild. So clearing the tags is going to be something that has to be done 2 credits at a time.
Yeah. So Lungy's Lila list is pretty fascinating, using influence in like a very different way to some of the other Lila lists that I've seen, and also like the one I had yesterday. So it's running the Tapworms, which not all Lila decks do. It's got 2 liberated accounts, and then also the one of Maker's Eye, instead of either like the Vazakis or Data Suckers or the Deuce's Wilds that also seem to show up a fair bit. So it's got a lot more resource econ here than some of the other standard Leelas I've seen.
It has a Hernando Cortez. I think the most interesting thing about this deck, though, is what it doesn't include. You already mentioned the Regikis, which are pretty ubiquitous. I guess Tapworm kind of fills that slot. But what is not in this Leela list is Amakwa, the card that has been running rampant all over the criminals and all over Poor Corpse. There's not a single Amakwa in this deck.
And that matters.
Now I like that. Because my Leela doesn't run Turtle either. Mine actually has more than 3 Icebreakers. I have backup ones. Whereas Longy's here is leaning entirely on 1 of each and the 2 special orders rather than the 1.
And you know what? Backup breakers is something that can be very important. While there are 3 boomerangs that don't line up too well against Mike's Ice Suite is the bad publicity Ice Suite that you see often in the outfit. And a lot of this Ice Suite can be face checked poorly into and actually end up trashing programs. Bulwark, Trebuchet, Boast can take programs down with them. And when we're talking about a criminal that has 1 of each breaker, while Paperclip can come back from the bin, if you trash an Angolo, they're in a really difficult situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Like losing your Angolo is outside of Boomerang disastrous.
That said, Leela is going to be really effective against the board state that Mike is going to be trying to set up. Really disruptive on both players' parts. It's going to be really interesting to watch this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mike starting with the mulligan against Leela, some of the early games can get there's a big swing if you can ice up your centrals and they can rip agenda into agenda. Obviously getting an ice on HQ to prevent that turn 1 diversion is definitely worth it. So Mike probably looking for something a bit better. Longy saying 2 days of getting up at 4 a.m. Woof. Very hard to play some high stakes Netrunner that early in the morning.
Yeah, poor Europeans.
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting seeing that how many people from the Northern Hemisphere chose to play in this one. Obviously, quite a few have outright said it was because of calendar clashes. I can't make this weekend when my own one is, or just to even in a few cases I know. I think QVM mentioned that just the time was better because he has a kid, and sometimes it's easier to play at night when the kid is hopefully asleep. But it's definitely meant that we've had some interesting regional grudge stuff. I mean, obviously I've been rooting for the Australia, New Zealand, or other SEA players since this is our first continental level tournament. But I also know quite a few of the players from the Northern Hemisphere who have joined in, and it's been really nice seeing them going well and just being willing to get up at weird hours to come play some Netrunner with us. I've been really hype about these Continentals, and this first one has the whole circuit already off to a really good start. So
Mike.
just actually turning to the game here, I was going to say, so yeah, Mike's gone for the immediate hostile score, and Longy has responded just purely by setting up with the gamble into Earthrise Daily Cast, which is an incredibly strong opener if you're not being aggressive turn 1, and following it up with Turning Wheel into Dirty Laundry, presumably into R&D.
So yeah, Mike already turned 2 up 22 credits. Getting that hostile out before Leela can do any damage is obviously pretty good. Was risking a diversion of funds, but now Longy is going to interact with the Corp with a huge credit lead. Now stealing that SSL. We're at a problem here. Hard-hitting news is alive and well, but on top of that, punitive counterstrike with only 2 cards. If Mike has the perfect hand here, double punitive is not that difficult, especially with the consulting in the deck and archive memories. Mike could just end the game here on turn 3.
Absolutely.
Am I dead?
How long as you've been wondering this already?
If you're going to snag an early 3-pointer, earlier is better because it is less likely that the outfit has drawn up into the double punitive. We see another agenda going down with dedication ceremony on the City Works project, making it really unappetizing to steal. Yeah, I gotta say, whenever I saw the outfit opening with a turn 1 hostile, I had flashbacks to the last game. I was really nervous that Leela was just going to rip this apart real fast. But I think the threat of punitive kept them in setup mode for just a slight bit longer than they were expecting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cityworks Projects is also a very interesting card against Leela. It's a public agenda, so it is installed face up, which means Leela cannot bounce it. So this is safe even without the centrals being protected. Even if Longy does get an agenda here, they can't throw that back into hand. Reverse accounts trashed off the top for 2 credits with bad publicity, building up those turning wheel counters. And Longy did not die to punitive, did not get hardening news, so they are pretty safe to interact this turn as well.
Yeah, so it's interesting to know that Longy's Leela isn't running inside jobs at all. So getting into that remote is going to require either an Ngolo, the right breaker, or a boomerang, assuming it isn't something like Spiderweb or Bulwark or such like.
Still, if they run that remote and do get through, that's 5 meat damage. Now, Mike could have been on single punitive, which might not have been enough, but after taking 5 meat, you're probably not going to survive when they send their cleanup crew after you. Swinging HQ to see a mouseless, it looks like Mike is going to be able to safely score the City Works project. And again, we're talking about turn 4, and Mike is already on game point.
Yeah, exactly. And what's also really fascinating here is that he's got that extra click thanks to the dedication ceremony. So he's able to reinstall the ice that has to be bounced by Leela wherever he likes for no additional cost. That's actually like a superb scoring turn against Leela.
Mike, checking R&D, building up those turning wheel counters. Again, if you want to jam something into the remote, that turning wheel threat on central servers always does threaten the bounce. I don't think Mike's deck has a digital rights management, so locking the top of R&D will lock Mike out of agendas. Dumping the turning wheels now in here. We'll see if they say 2 or 3 cards. Looks like full 3.
Yeah, this is interesting using it at this point. I guess Longy is just hoping to really stop Mike from being able to start scoring out again, like immediately. But I do personally wonder if it might have been better to just charge up the turning wheel and get ready for a deeper dig next turn. But it also does depend on like their breaker situation, since obviously Mike was gonna drop at least 1 piece of ice on R&D, since we saw that Mausolus in HQ last turn.
I think the big thing that Longy was trying to do was ensure there were no more scoring threats coming up. So now he can take the next couple of turns to sit back and get money back and start searching for those breakers.
Mike spending 2 clicks and a massive 6 credits to clear those pad taps, understanding the game is going to take a while longer enough for those credits to matter. Drawing through the R&D lock, also icing up R&D with Trebuchet. You have to worry about the face check. You could lose the turning wheel pretty easily on the trash a card subroutine.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think clearing those pad taps was absolutely the right choice. Mike's got such a huge credit lead here. 2 clicks and 6 credits wasn't actually that much of an impact on his total credit count, and managing to keep Longy's credit amount down is going to be really, really useful.
We see Leela special ordering for an Angolo. Still really expensive, but it also means that Mike is unable to rush out the final 2 agendas, or the final agenda, and we see the gameplay pattern responding to that by Mike setting up a 2 ice remote.
Yeah, Angolo obviously lets you get through any piece of ice at least once a turn, but some of the bigger ice here, we're talking about Bulwark, it's 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 credits to get through with a single Angolo. That's a tall ask, even with I guess right now it's only 1 bad publicity, but Longy at 17 credits, pretty safe against double punitive. Mike probably just wants to jam something to build a scoring window, and Angolo coming down for 5. Not going to stand too long. Hernando, though. Not too bad.
Okay, so that Hernando's actually a really big deal here. Mike is well above 10 credits, and almost all of his ice is going to have 2+ subroutines. So for at least maybe like 2, maybe even 3 ice reses, he's going to be playing an extra 2 or 3 credits for each of those. That's a very big deal.
Right.
Archive memories? Sorry. Archive memories being used to rip the reversed accounts out of archives might be jammed in server 3 here. The play, either advance, click to use, will wipe 8 credits away from Longy, but I think the big fear here is dedication ceremony, which for 2 clicks, Longy can lose 12 credits. And then you can't really interact. You're scared of hard-hitting news.
Exactly. And if Longy goes up too higher than 12 here, Mike could just pump the extra click into it and clear out 16.
First account's really hard to interact with. No matter what, you're going to lose your credits. If you run it, a lot of credits lost. You're risking losing your Angolo. I really like this fork. It's worth noting there's no agenda that this could be a bluff for. All the agendas are 5/3s besides Hostile. And it looks we're just going to go to Boomerang into Diversion.
Yeah, this is a fair enough play. I mean, hard hitting will still be landable, but it's not going to be particularly economical for Mike to do here. So I think the Diversion's a pretty good play, assuming that the Boomerang can get through that ice. So he could pop the border control here if he wants, but I don't think that's likely. I think he's just going to make Longy pay the Boomerang to get through and just get that out of the way for the future.
I mean,
I would be surprised if Mike pops it.
And then border control. That way you don't get the Boomerang back.
That's
Longy's deck
a good
does have
point
3.
too, actually. Yeah.
So we'll see if they pop. If they pop, though, an open HQ is an easy way to build up those turning wheel counters. I'm not sure if Mike has an agenda in there. It looks like they're going to let that diversion go through. So now 13 credits, they're a parity, and Hernando Cortez still putting up a lot of pressure. Those additional res costs add up pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was a good move by Mike to just leave the border control up. So you can save it for a moment, like a diversion or a legwork that's going to have a much higher impact later on. And it's also worth noting that because of how priority order works in Netrunner, on the runner's turn, they have to do all of their instant speed abilities and then pass priority to the corp. So if Longy decides to run HQ and use some turning wheel tokens, Mike can then just be like, oh, I'm just going to use the border control and pop your turning wheel tokens, and they won't do anything. So
Mike,
I think saving it's a good call.
Mike is lamenting in chat, forgot about the Hernando Cortez. So spending 6 credits just to use that Boomerang, not a great trade for the Corp, specifically when credit advantage matters in a deck that is threatening both hard-hitting news and punitive Counter-Strike. Longy here, also, it's worth noting their list does not have the political operative, one of the few ways to interact with reversed accounts easily. So we'll see if Mike still chooses to advance it or dedicate it out next turn. Longy is saying they have to figure out how to solve the accounts problem with a dedication in hand. I'm not sure if they know there's a dedication in hand. They might have seen it coming off the top of R&D. Swinging over to R&D here. And that's a mouseless res for 7 credits. Woof.
Yeah, that hurts. That hurts a lot. But on the other hand, breaking Nuzzlers also hurts quite a bit. That is 5 credits if you want to break everything on there.
Probably
And
just
at
for
last
the.
click, I think you do.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, I think you could probably leave the Corp gains 1 credit sub, but you definitely want to break the net damage and the tag one. Because if you don't break the net damage one, you go down to 2 cards, and if you steal a 3-pointer, there's the punitive potential. And if you leave the see that Long is just like, oh, please can I take back the break of the first one, which I think is I think that's a good call for Longy.
Dumping the turning wheel counter is going to see 2 off the top of R&D. Looks like Longy just wants to spend their money knowing that the reversed accounts is coming out here. And Mike, I think the best order here, if possible, is advance reversed accounts into hard-hitting news. But it looks like it's just going to be advance into too big to fail for 10 credits and a bad publicity, leaving the what could actually not be the reversed accounts. Might even be a cheeky SSL on the table.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting what that could be. And so he's over the 10 credit threshold for the Hernando again, but having like a border control and any sort of taxing ice on the remote could be a really big deal for locking Longy out here. He doesn't have the Clippy in the bin, so raising a border control will just force the use of Ngolo to paint that in the first place. Which means this would be at least 2 runs. So yeah, this is interesting. It could be the agenda, and if it is, I think that's a really good call. But we're seeing a sneak door going down now, so if Mike has
wow,
any...
hostile.
Oh, yeah,
that's
a
huge bounce. Mike could have
say...
pre-res that if it was a reversed account to prevent the bounce, but now that's in hand. Longy can go back with Sneak Door and have a chance to trash that. There's also a chance they find the reversed accounts in there on that run and see that was an agenda, but that is such a huge rip. 1 in 5 on the hostile. Longy also now on game point.
Yeah, exactly. Except for the third hostile. Is there a third hostile?
I think there's only 2.
You're right. Yeah, there's only 2. So yeah, it is now just a game of find the agenda.
Install advance could still be the reversed accounts. We did see the hard-hitting news in hand, so Longy has the real threat here. But that Sneak Door beta is a way to cheaply build up those turning wheel counters if you want to just dump into R&D after this. Again, if they don't pre-res the reversed accounts, and maybe they didn't pre-res it because it's actually the final winning SSL, I think Longy can find that out very quickly if they find the reversed accounts in hand.
That's definitely possible. I mean, there is still another SSL around there as well.
It just found a reversed account.
Yeah, I think it may well be an agenda.
What a play! Archive memory for reversed accounts, jam agenda unadvanced. That's what it might be. It still could be double reversed. Maybe even a Rashid. Well, it can't be a Rashid. They advanced it. This could be the final turn. Longy needs to figure out a way how to dismantle this situation, getting a bounce on R&D or getting into server 3.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Mike may well have... Oh, okay, yeah, that's 100% an SSL. I think that's all the reverseds in the bin now, so there isn't actually anything else that could be. So that is without question an SSL, and Longy has 13 credits and 2 clicks to try and get into that server, which I feel is likely to have a border control on.
Looks like Longy is...
Instead, he's going to go for, the R&D play.
Yeah, the remote is safe. Again, we're on Leela. The bounce won't matter too much. If Longy finds an agenda, they'll just win the game, able to see 3 cards with turning wheel. They'll still have 1 click left if they really want to contest the remote. Mike is going to have to spend pretty few credits resing ice on the remote server with Hernando Cortez. Oh, this is huge. Longy going to see 3, I imagine.
Yeah, my heart is really up in my chest right now.
What a wild turn of events.
What?
There it is. There it is.
What a game. Oh man, what a ruse! Archive memories into reverse to jam an agenda, put that back in that turn after, and still the third card off of that turning wheel dig going to be the CityWorks project. Not that many agendas left in the game, assuming that was the 5-3 in the remote. Like, this is an 8 agenda deck. We have 5 on the table, probably 1 in HQ, 27 cards left in R&D.
Yeah, and Mike says that he had a border control protecting the remote server. So if he had gone for the remote server early, it could have put him in a really bad spot. But deep digging works too.
Yeah.
Oh man.
No. So Mike went with the line that I figured it was, and just gambled on what the three agendas left in R&D not being pulled with 3 cards. That was a 1 in 10 to pull something from R&D there.
It was it was pretty low.
Slightly better. Yeah.
Yo, we're not seeing Sneak Dart Beta in a lot of criminal builds. Again, a lot of these criminals are struggling on MU with things like Tapworm with Rizekis, let alone Ngolo on its own 2 MU. But hey, Ngolo Sneak Dart Beta just enough to put on all that pressure. Wow, what a game.
That that Sneak Dart play pretty much won him the game there by sniping that hostile to bounce what was probably the SSL there in the previous turn too. So that was that was definitely a
doing
right down to the wire game.
Yeah, absolutely. Literally last click that Lungi could have done anything, and he manages to pull out the win out of low odds of R&D, like real nail biter.
So we know now that Longi is going to go on to play. Wait, I goofed this the first time, so I'm going to double check before I say anything. Longi is now in the finals versus Eric.
That's correct.
Longi coming from the lower brackets means they have to win 2 games. It looks like Eric is going to start out runner. I think that's a very exciting matchup. Eric has a very fascinating Freedom Kamalo build, not too virus heavy, not Nob Curie, but just kind of like a regular ass, as people call it, the regular Anarch with an additional pressure with Yusuf and Freedom's ability. I'm excited to see what this looks like. So if I'm not mistaken, Longi playing from Czech Republic?
Correct.
Yes.
Awesome. Again, Eric just has to take 1 game. Longi has the 2 to get that run back from the losers finals.
Right. And so we're going to see Argus versus Freedom, which is a really interesting dynamic matchup. Freedom being able, of course, to trash a lot of the tricks that Argus is normally able to pull, but often Freedom finds himself really struggling with econ because you have a little bit of a rig you need to get going. Now Eric's Freedom does kind of sidestep that by doing a Regas build, like you said, Andre. So we're going to see a much more patient game, but with the ability for Freedom to trash these hard-hitting operations.
So Freedom Kamalo on Axis once a turn can spend virus counters to trash a card, regardless of whether or not it has a trash cost, by just paying virus counters equal to its into its res or play cost. And looking at the Argus list, there's a fair few powerful cards that are on the lower end of the spectrum. We're looking at Economic Warfare trash for free, the Single Audacity trash for free, Consulting Visit, Hard Hitting News, High Profile Target. That stuff is not too hard to deal with. Too Big to Fail trashed for free. That's some really good value if you can keep that central pressure on.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Freedom's also running 3 Deuces Wild here. So in a pinch, he can clear a tag from an Argus or a Data Raven for a relatively low cost. And he's also running a 1 of turntable, which can be a huge deal against the likes of Global Food or what can be especially relevant in the Argus matchup is an over-advanced Atlas.
Or Hostile. Yeah, snagging a Hostile and then getting 2 points for it is a pretty good feeling, especially if you're defending an Atlas counter.
Yeah,
This is one of the few lists we're seeing in the top cut that isn't running Cyberdeck's Virus Suites as a nice little upgrade. But interestingly enough, this Argus Agenda Suite varies a bit from what you might have seen competitively for the last couple of years, that for its 4-2 slot, it's running a single copy of a Cyberdeck Sandbox, which does give value if you do want to purge through the Yusuf, the Data Sucker, the Amakua that Eric will be bringing to this table. But again, you have to spend that time purging or by scoring the agendas. No Cyberdeck's Virus Suite's going to pop off, giving you that unexpected sure gamble of value.
Yeah, exactly. And it is also only a one-of, so he's got to find this like single Cyberdex to be able to get that kind of value out of it, especially with, as far as I can tell, there's no agenda tutoring in here either.
Oh, I'm really excited for this game. I don't know. I'm not too familiar with Eric's playstyle. I know Eric classically over the last competitive seasons was playing a lot of Tag Me Liza, whether that suggests he plays very aggressive. That's always really fun in these matchups where the aggression is kind of on that knife edge between, the threat, the hard-hitting news, the economic warfares, and being buried by tags. It's going to be quite the matchup.
Argus versus these high pressure runners is always a delight to see because, like you said, it is very nice knife's edge. It's the game can turn on a dime in a way that very few other matchups really telegraph.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's probably a reasonable comparison for the Freedom here is that Freedom does want to run a lot to make use of his ID and also to be able to build up those virus counters as quickly or as effectively as possible. But you do also kind of need to, especially in a Regas Anarch list, you do need to take some time to also set up a bit as well, especially to ensure that you're not going to be getting hit by the Harding news. So I find that Freedom does actually kind of play similarly to Leela. In fact, I think he might be, aside from maybe Hishiko now, the most sort of criminal reminiscent Anarch ID out there. So you have a bit of an ebb and flow of wanting to be hyper aggressive, but then also wanting to know exactly when you have to stop and sit back and set up and make sure that you're able to begin being super aggressive again. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of aggression out the gate from Eric, depending on how set up the Argus gets, right away, and then probably a bit of a sort of a mid-game setup slowdown to sort of prepare to try and close out the match against the Argus. And we'll just have to see what kind of Argus tricks Longy is able to bring to bear to deal with the free trashing that Freedom is going to be getting here.
So Argus Security, if you're not familiar with identity, it says when the runner steals an agenda, they either have to take a single tag or take 2 meat damage. And a lot of the times in Anarch builds, the meat damage is actually pretty favorable with cards like Paperclip, MK Ultra, Black Orchestra. You want to get those in the bin. It doesn't matter too much. You also have that really nice I've Had Worse, where sometimes that 2 meat damage can actually give you that card drop boost, which can get you into the economy or obviously through the rest of your deck. So I'm interested to see whether there's a big chance that the tag will never come into play on the Anarch side. I feel a lot of the times you're just okay face tanking that damage.
Of course, it really depends. These decks are not running multiples of a lot of really key essential cards. If you have your only multi-axis in hand, maybe it's worth taking the tag.
Oh yeah, that's actually pretty. That's definitely worth saying about Eric's list. This is we've seen this before with Eric's list. This is one of the few Anarch lists that I've seen that doesn't actually run a Stargate in it. In terms of multi-axis, while you do have Freedom's ability that in some way can be seen as a soft multi-axis, the idea is if you can trash the top card of R&D, you can run back for a second card. This list only runs 2 turning wheels. Again, MU gets used up pretty quickly with cards like Yusuf that take up 2 MU, other support cards like Data Sucker, and because we're not on Knob Curie, we don't have that additional MU, so Stargate probably just doesn't fit in this rig. I think that turning wheel actually matters a lot, right? Because the single tag pressure, a lot of times you can float a single tag against an Argus list. This list specifically, I need to check up on the other list, whether it's threatening boom or high profile target, but floating a single tag is one of the biggest threats is actually losing your multi-axis when it comes to losing that turning wheel.
This Longi making it into the finals is really interesting because this same thing happened with the Black Lives Matter tournament. The 9th seed managed to make it in due to a drop, and 9th seed ended up winning. So maybe we'll see another 0 to hero moment here. You never know.
That's super exciting. And again, Longi does have to take 2 games off of Eric's one. Still possible that run back. You see it quite often. I don't feel like any of these matchups are particularly unfavored. Looking at the other side, we're looking at Longi's Leela versus Eric's Titan. If we get to that game too, and we did see that Leela list get some nice, pretty fortunate rips off the top of R&D to end one of those Titans runs. But
who needs multi-act?
Yeah, multi-axis, excuse me. So there's a possibility. We've seen Leela do it. We can definitely see it happen again. And this Argus versus Freedom matchup, I'm definitely excited to see this hit the table.
The game is up now, so let's go ahead and join. Longi on Argus, Whiteblade on Freedom, to reiterate.
All right, Longi keeping their hand. Obviously, a good start for them. They have what they need. A lot of times with Freedom, you want to stop those cheap, easy central runs if they're building up data sucker counters or Yusuf counters, anything really, any virus counters that they can use to start taking apart the operations that Argus is going to need to pressure the runner.
Freedom is a really interesting matchup with Argus because normally Argus is another one of those decks that goes at a blisteringly fast pace. But with Argus, depending on what you start with, you might want to spend time making sure that none of your servers are easy to run to make sure that Freedom can't just run rampant with Yusuf.
Hedge Fund building a remote, icing that up. I don't think we have any tricks like Boomerang here, but Eric is just going to face check into that with the Bravado. Hitting the mouse list, that is not going to end the run, but do some not inconsequential damage with the tag. Hitting, that sure gamble with the net damage as well. What is this, a Rashida? Yeah, Rashida, you can trash that for 0 virus counters.
Yep, and get the Bravado money. Player juices, clear the tag. Yeah, that's a good way to finish
tag
off.
Clear.
And then another gamble. So losing one gamble there obviously hurt, and then we saw that he just had a second one in hand. So that's a really solid first turn for Eric.
Money cards, yeah.
Using the I've had worse to draw just to get some card draw on the table and 12 credits of liberated accounts. Eric going to take a little step back that turn to set up. That I've had worse, again, that's a very important card in the matchup that can make you live through some of the lower high profile targets if that is what Longi needs to pursue. And just drawing up, Longi doesn't even have ice for centrals, or at least not opting for that. Actually, ice on HQ. Earthrise drawing too.
No Yusufs yet. Freedom is probably digging for that right now.
0 hitting the table. That's the card draw Anarch just received with the new changes to the ban list. 2006. Take a net damage to gain a credit and draw 2 cards. You'll take that trade. That gets you through your deck faster. You just have to watch out you don't get to the end of your line where the meat damage can just kind of grind you out. Now, Mouseless on a remote obviously doesn't end the run, but is annoying, is taxing. A lot of times you see that ice more on central servers to prevent those cheap to free runs. Longi installing an ice, drawing up after. Might want to jam a Rashida here if they can. Even just getting a Prisec rolling is pretty good. Unadvanced card does, in theory, threaten an Atlas without a counter. And Eric, very aggressive, just going to draw straight into it. It's a Raven. You can bounce off that if you'd like. Otherwise, the tag and trace looks like an end to run.
Very unenviable.
Yeah, so right now, if Eric wants to go through there, he's going to be getting 2 tags. And then stealing something, you either take 2 meat or another tag. That's definitely not a fun server to have to run through while you can't break that Morseless tag.
Oh, discarding 3 cards at the end of turn, throwing out a Paperclip, Black Orchestra, and MK Ultra. Full house there, all the breakers. And it looks like a new remote is going to be pushing out a hostile takeover, trading a bad pub for 7 credits and an agenda point. And there's the first virus card we're seeing. Eric throwing down an Amakua, going centrals here. Hitting it too big to fail for free. Not too bad. Getting deeper down. Turning wheel getting built up. Amakua now at 1 strength. So we're pretty sure server 1 is probably a Prysec, unless that's just a food, or maybe you just drew the hostile the last turn and you want to score that out before pushing out an Atlas with a token on it, perhaps?
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it was a food. I think it's probably just a Prysec.
Definitely a Prysec. Completely agree. This is just one of those cards you throw down there and you forget it until it's relevant again.
Well, actually, double advance.
Oh. All right, we're wrong. We're wrong, Pat. We've been outrused.
Interesting. So that's a big fork, right? Either could be the food, which would threaten game point, or could also just be a big Atlas. An Atlas with 2 counters represents economic warfare into hard-hitting news. Pretty scary. Eric not biting,
Yeah, exactly.
setting up.
Possibly an NGO, since they both have deck lists. They know that this Argus has. Okay, so
It's a GFI. I was totally wrong.
that is a
I mean,
turn. That is a big threat to Whiteblade, actually. Possibly going to start looking for that turntable. See if we can make the turns table.
Hippo coming down, losing a stim hack off of the 0 fire. Hitting R&D can see 2 cards if they want. Hitting that hostile again, no turntable just yet. But losing the stim hack and Hippo due to the meat damage. Deuces Wild drawing up 2. And again, install advance now threatens game point at any point in time with foods left in this deck.
Exactly, yeah. I think that was a pretty ballsy move from Longy to just leave that GFI there and slow roll it up over 2 turns. But it clearly paid off, and I think it probably was a pretty smart call, considering that Eric didn't really have any breaker power out and would have had to go pretty low on credits in order to actually get in there.
Right, it would have left him very vulnerable to a hard-hitting news.
Yeah, precisely. So, and I guess he just wanted to make sure the GFI was out of the way so that he didn't have to deal with any potential HQ rips. So, yeah, I guess it was a smart, ballsy play that I might not have made personally, but ended up paying off really well. So I was clearly wrong here. And yeah, there we go. Like you said, the install advance threatens the win every time.
So it's not only about reading the board state, but reading the other player. Longy took a very good minute to think about that play there, whether that means they're calculating whether this agenda is safe, whether they can recover for it, or whether they're stalling to make that NGO front seem more appealing. Always fascinating. Now an Ice Res here might threaten Longy down. They just need to keep 3 credits, right, to be able to threaten that server 1 score if it is the final food.
Right, and we know this is a border control from an earlier Deuces Wild, and I don't think you want to expose that to a Hippo.
NGO front access from HQ means that what's in server 1 is more likely to be an agenda.
Yeah, that's the only NGO we've seen so far, so it could well be one still. But
second NGO, there's only 2 in this list.
Yeah. Okay.
Whoa, we have a game is afoot here. Eric might only have 3 more clicks. Now, you can always just go tag me if you think you're going to lose on the remote. Now, you definitely are going to have to worry about the meat damage, but if that's your out, that's your out.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he has got the Black Orchestra in the bin here, so he could go for breaking the Mausolus, but that's going to cost a lot. That'll be what, like 9 credits to break only 2 of the subs on the Mausolus. But it does save you the click of having to get rid of that tag.
Right.
Now, Eric giving it a good think. We lost 1 stim hack a turn prior to 0, so that burst credits are not going to come in too quickly. Eric giving himself a think here. If I'm not mistaken, these last rounds might not be timed. I don't think that's going to matter, but you can take all the time you want.
Yeah, they're untimed.
Also, that NGO trash on HQ denied the Amakua virus counter, which could matter if you want to just get up to 4 or 5 counters to be able to contest server 1. You might not have needed to trash that if you thought this was an agenda.
Here's that knife edge game we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. Yeah, we've had some like the 2 games that I've been here for so far have both been pretty swift, and this one
Ooh.
could well be as well.
Charging the Raven. You're going to have to take that tag, that trace. You're our favorite. The bad pub is going to help you get through that. I don't think you want to break this with MK Ultra. The Mouseless, you might just want to take that to the chin. Take 2 tags. You can still clear both of them.
In addition to the meat damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other problem. So you would go down to 2 cards, and you would have to take either 2 meat or another tag if that is an agenda.
Maybe one of them is I've had worse. You don't know.
They've already played 2. Going to be difficult to find the last I've had worse, but definitely a possibility. Firing the Mouseless, going to take a tag, give a credit to the corp. Access here. If it's the food, it's the food. That was it.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
that was a good play. It's going to take the meat, clear the tags. Yeah. So punitive here obviously it would be a win.
This list, I think, only has economic warfare, hard-hitting news into high profile.
Okay, so no punitive here at all. Okay, yeah. So he could hard-hitting news here, but Eric can clear all the tags. So
yeah, you need the.
I think he's actually fine. I think Eric's fine for this.
Longy needs the econ warfare if they have it. I think they have 2 in their deck. Taking their time to think this one out. They still have probably a scoring window here, but it's going to be a bit more difficult to get out. I think the list is on 3 foods. Let me double check. So if they're only on 2, Longy has a lot more work to do. Have to score at 2 more agendas. One of them
3 foods. Yeah.
3 foods. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, what a game.
So there's still 3 foods. Sorry, one. So there's 1 more food, 1 Cyberdeck sandbox, all 3 atlases, and another hostile out there. So still quite a few agendas around.
Econ warfare. Just as seems for value, but no, into hard-hitting news and an install. So if server 1 is Rashida, gives Longy a better option or a better chance to draw into a consulting visit or the high-profile target. And Eric is only going to be on 4 credits after the day of the cast. Can't clear all the tags. I think at best 3?
Yeah, you can go click liberated and then clear 3 tags.
But if they clear 3, they're still dead to high-profile target. They will be flatlined.
Exactly. No cards in hand makes this hard.
Longy asking if they can undo the 2nd and 3rd clicks. Might need a judge call on this.
Yeah, I think that's probably a judge call. Yeah.
I don't know whether it's up to Eric's discretion or the judge's discretion.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it's white blades
revealed.
All right, so it looks like we're gonna have to stay to what has hit the table. A hard-hitting news going through 4 tags on Eric. No cards in hand. High-profile target could, in theory, be trashed by Amakua, but I think we have 2 in the deck and a consulting. Eric, knowing that clearing the tags is fruitless, just going to go for either the game win or enough destruction. Turning wheel, building up counters. Can flush out all of HQ and trash anything that could threaten damage.
Yeah, so here's the problem though. So the border control can be popped after the turning wheel counters have been used.
But Hippo.
Except for the Hippo. So that's why that Hippo is super, super critical here. That's really important.
Turning wheel, going to see a high profile target. That's 2 virus counters off the Amakua to trash that. What the other card is matters a lot. It was a border control.
So let's see.
Longy still could have it if that's a Rashida in the remote.
And it was not, it would seem. So, yeah, he could still land a kill here by draw, credit, play high profile. But
there's only one more high profile.
Nope. Just going to kill the turning wheel.
Longy going down to 0, trashing the turning wheel.
And
after R&D, knowing that he has to, the immediate threat is making sure that the next high profile is not coming up.
Exactly, yeah.
trashing an NGO front for a credit, not using Freedom's ability, wants to keep that virus counter with stealing a food. Eric on game point.
Yeah, except for the third hostile, of course. But stealing that is still going to be a big deal as well.
Yes.
Eric
So
has
Eric's
a fresh
just
card on
going
top of R&D.
full tag me at this point. But yeah,
It
keep
does
poking at R&D.
scoring 2 more agendas.
So Longy doesn't on this credit total threaten consulting visit into high profile target, but credit high profile target is in theory a threat. Eric going for this remote, thinking that this is not a prize deck, but just an agenda that Longy felt they had to kind of push to safety. This could in fact be the game.
Yeah, could well be. I mean, at this point, Eric may as well just run through all of that. The tags just don't matter when you're already on 5 of them. So, yeah, this seems like a pretty good goal.
Yep, agreed.
And then you've got one more click to go and check the top of R&D and make sure that it's not like a high-profile target if necessary.
Wow, this is huge. It's probably not. It could, in theory, be the hostile. That's a bit unlikely. More likely to be an agenda. And it was worth noting that turn that this was installed in the remote, Longy wanted to redo if possible. What does that mean? I don't know. We're going to access this for free.
Yeah, I think it may have been just a sort of a brain fart on installing an agenda in there when, oh wait, he can just run through. Yeah, that's the GG from Longy. So it seems
Sandbox.
like that was the case.
That
Loading.
makes Blade our APAC Continental winner.
And it does.
What a
So
game!
Whiteblade continuing to come down to other places and take their tournaments. Continuing his trend. But yeah, I think that was a hard-fought game and a well-earned win.
Wow.
Very well played, very knife's edge, very aggressive from both sides. Seeing that global food scored early was absolutely ludicrous. There was a lot of really interesting plays on both sides here. It was an absolute pleasure to watch.
So many
Absolutely.
forks in the road where they knew what had to be done to prevent the game loss or the game win. Freedom's ability being so much more valuable in this matchup than probably a Val or a Hoshiko. A good meta call, even on a not too virus heavy of a deck. Absolutely well played from both players.
Yeah, for sure. So I think we're gonna have we're gonna have the 2 finalists come join us for a little bit of a chat. I don't know if it's going to be both at the same time or one at a time. I guess we'll figure that out here.
Congratulations to Whiteblade on being the first Asia Pacific Continentals champion.
Absolutely, very explosive, exciting games. We saw again a lot of these win conditions. We saw that quick Wayland coming through in all forms. A lot of Titan. We saw the outfit. We saw Argus security. Runner still pulling out on top, making all the right calls. Again, these players came from a starting pool of 46. They played, I'm not sure how many rounds yesterday, 4 or 5, maybe even 6. 5 rounds, I believe, just to make a top 8 to return today. Worth noting that a lot of these players are not in the Asia Pacific time zones, so they are playing at ridiculous hours of the morning or evening.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't blame Eric if he decided not to jump in, although I'm wrong. Here he is.
He's
Hello.
here. Eric. Hey, Eric, how's it going?
You guys can hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear
Yeah.
Yo,
Congrats, Eric.
That's pretty fucking lit. Okay, I just want to say, I feel like there was like a 2-year period where Canada basically wasn't a Netrunner region, and it was just like Dean, basically Dean and like the good Toronto players. And now I think between like me, Will from Alberta, Andre in Montreal, and Cho in Toronto, I actually feel like Canada is a real Netrunner region again. Super sick.
Eric, congrats on your play. Really fun. Do you have a minute to talk about your freedom list? Kind of light on viruses, heavy on pressure, that aggression. How did you get here?
Okay, so like I'm in this testing group called Snare Bears. I'm just gonna rattle off the names real quick. It's Matthew Yeaton, also known as Scry, Kat Shen, Chris Fazo, Loa Oslot, Rob Gronkaf, and Jonah Wilson. And I was gonna play Reg Hashiko, and then I lost against Laura like maybe 10 games in a row. And I was like, actually, Reg Hashiko's trash. So I decided that Matthew was like, I'm playing this Freedom deck, and it's winning a lot of games. And like in theory, it's just good against the Corp decks that we think are good. And so I played like maybe 40 games of it on Thursday. And then I was like, okay, I'll play Freedom.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Was there a lot of tuning, or did you just basically take a reg list and throw Freedom on top of it?
So like basically it's a continuation of the list that the New York meta played at Worlds. Also known as Bubble Freedom. And so like basically it was supposed to be like the sort of tools that Reg Hashiko had, because like our Reg Hashiko was on Bravado and stuff and Turntable and like the Reg cards, and then we wanted a runner that had more disruption, because we thought that like basically any Corp deck that's actually trying to score agendas is fucking ass. And so we were like, every deck's a combo deck, and so we were just like, okay, we just need to play the runner that is anti-combo. And so we were like, let's just play Freedom.
Super cool. Yeah. I think that combo thing is definitely a correct call. We saw a lot of Titan, yourself included. Yeah. Those were the main things that you were that you were trying to play against in this tournament, was just the combo type stuff.
Like, why was I playing Titan?
Yeah, excuse me. That's a fair question too.
Like, I was playing Titan. Like, I was playing Titan because all the corps fucking suck. And so, like, the argument is, like, if you suck, if, like, anything you play sucks, you can sometimes coin flip out as Titan when you draw all the atlases. So it makes sense to play a corp that can just high roll, because any corp that actually has, like, a strategy isn't going to work in this meta at all. And so the idea behind Titan, the second part is that, like, it's this weird effect where, like, 4-9 is, like, just obviously the best runner. It's like flat busted, but it's this weird effect where, like, because the deck is like super linear in some sense, you can like play Titan and exploit it. I do think though, like, actually Longy's leader list is like where the archetype goes.
Why is that?
I think the archetype is dead end in a way, because like I think Longy's Leela deck is actually the most brilliant criminal deck I've seen in the last month. Because
thanks, man.
No, it's so good. It's like running like it's like, I think some people, they play 4-9 and they just like play the same 4-9 list. But like I think the Leela list is like playing the criminal cards that are flat busted, and then you just like put in all the good tech cards for combo. It's so good. I was terrified. When you beat Mike. I wanted not to play you.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's a strong list, and I was talking earlier during like the first game that I was commentating that I'm pretty convinced that Leela just has a dramatically stronger matchup against the stronger corpse like Titan in the meta at the moment over 419. So I'm not surprised to hear you saying you were pretty terrified of it, Eric.
Oh, am I not allowed to swear in this stream? I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry.
I've had a running you've got to one hand.
I have another question for you, though, Eric. Was putting out an article on how to beat asset spam and then playing Titan a bit of a ruse?
Okay, so here's the fun part. Ready? I was gonna play CTM. I was gonna play CTM out first because I was like, "Oh, this CTM deck's nuts," and then I realized that like if your opponent knows how to play Netrunner, it doesn't work, and so we had to like hot swap off it. But at the time I was writing the article, I was playing CTM. I was playing CTM a bunch, And then I had like 3 people in a row be like super salty at me on JNet. So now whenever I play someone and they complain to me about asset spam, I just link them the article in the chat. And it's great.
Oh man. Also, the other voice you're hearing here, we're joined by Longy. Congratulations, Longy. You had definitely a long road, pinch hitting in on the 9th place on Swiss Cut, making it all the way down here. Do you want to talk a bit about your Leela list? Like Eric says, I think it's absolutely fascinating.
Hi guys, yeah, thank you. Well, actually, I decided to play Leela just a couple of days ago because, as everybody, I wanted to play 419, but I tried variety of versions. I tried the one with mining accidents, with Angolo, paperclip, with rogue trading, but nothing seemed like to click with me totally. And also, I wasn't able to beat the Titan consistently because in our group we have a guy who is playing Titan like for 2 guys actually, and I wasn't able to beat them with 419. So I switched to Leela. I said myself, okay, you need a bit of the criminal luck, but if you have it, you can do it, and that's exactly what happened today. The problem that I have is how to fit all the really good criminal cards into deck. As you might realize, and in my list, I do not play many hate cards. And basically, I don't think I play any hate card like Citadel and stuff, because the more of them I include, the less I lose the consistency of the Leela. So I decided to go for a version that sits back bit, but so I can use career fair on daily cards, hotels, and build up the rig. But often I show the opponent that I have Angolo. He also knows that I have 3 boomerangs, so he can't afford to rush. And that's basically the classic view. Then I start hitting HQ and hoping to bounce stuff if I can't get to the remote at all. Also, Sneak Door has been tremendous help with that. I wish I had place for 2 Sneak Door betas, but the problem is memory, with Paragon being console with 1 memory, and I really want to play Angolos, there is a bit of a stretch. But like I said, I basically ended up on this build this week, and I'm happy for it. I like this kind of criminal play. For me, the 419 seems more like a shaper play. You keep the game under control all the time. This feels different.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. That makes absolute sense. There was a couple of card choices that I was pretty curious about. So,
Okay.
why? What made you decide to slot Tapworm, or is that included in like the really broken crim cards that you were talking about? And I'm quite curious about the lack of inside job, which has always been a real mainstay in a lot of Leela lists.
Yeah. Well, the first one, really, the Tapworm, really goes with the strategy that I just described. You can afford to sit back and benefit from the core developing because it just slows them down. It kind of doesn't go well with Hernando, so I would say this is the weakest card. But on the other hand, with Leela, you want to discourage people from raising too many ICs because you would like to bounce them back. And if they are above 10 credits and Hernando is on the table, I realized you often get to the centers and you can build up your turning wheel counters because they really don't want to play, let's say, 11 credits for raising single DNA. That's also the problem is that the meta in Czech Republic is more glaciary and a lot of people plays AG Infusion and decks like that, and against that the Hernando is really good in group. I'm not sure it did ton of work here, but I just like the card. That's the criminal card. You want to do your stuff, just pay more. And sorry, what was the other question? Inside job.
Yeah, inside job. Yeah.
Well, like I said, the slots are pretty tough, and I remember having a discussion with a friend on JNet. I think it was Cable Carnage, and he just said, "Okay, dude, if you want a criminal, you want to play 3 boomerangs, and like the fourth inside job would have been too much. The boomerangs return. That's the basically only difference. And with having Angolo, the inside job seems a bit redundant. Angolo and boomerang can get.
That's super exciting. If I'm not mistaken, this tournament, one of the prizes is to be able to design a card. Eric, do you have any ideas of what you're up to?
I don't know. It's gonna help Corpse win the game because we have none of those cards in standard right now, so it's really out here feasting for some Corp win cons. So it will probably do something busted that helps Corpse win the game. That's actually interesting. It's interesting. I already do gateway testing, and I've tested Finise since the beginning now, and so it's gonna be interesting helping guide a card that is personally mine, because normally I could be pretty detached and be oh, I think this card's bad, it's not mine, but now I'm gonna have a child I have to guide through growth.
Yeah. See, now you get to know my pain, Eric. Except only not for 65 of them.
If they let me, actually, I will say this: there's a 95% probability I'm gonna try and get a museum reprint pushed. Guaranteed, it's gonna be museum in some way, shape, or form.
Oh my!
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a win card to me, Eric. That sounds like a, I don't know, do things forever card.
That's winning. You get to play Netrunner for longer. That's good.
Players' sleeves and players' wrists. No arthritis aggravating cards here. Okay.
Yeah. You know who to come out ideas off there, Eric. If you need to.
I haven't even thought it. I'm terrible. This is the problem. Is I only know that a card is busted or bad in a format. I can't make up new cards. So this is gonna be straight up might just pick museum as a hot reprint.
We can talk about it later, but I think because you're also doing testing, you should talk to Lost Geek about what working on polls was like as a tester as well. I think you'll find you have a lot more room for iterating and just figuring out some unique ideas based off just a general concept you have by talking with the design and dev teams.
What did you guys? So this is an interesting thing. What is I've been grinding a ton of Netrunner, but I don't really watch a lot of it. As especially Morgan and Pat, you guys don't play a ton, but you guys watch a bunch. What did you guys think of the meta today?
Sorry, of what?
The meta. What did you think? What was good and stuff?
You mean today or this whole weekend?
This whole weekend, sure.
So, this is interesting. So after I left NSA earlier this year, I actually didn't play or watch any Netrunner very much at all. It's only been the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks that I've sort of come back. I came back for a tournament that somebody ran I don't know, a few weeks ago, and then also this. So it's sort of been fascinating coming from just after Uprising's release, where there are, of course, a lot of hot takes on some of the new cards. And a lot of people being oh no, this stuff's going to be really strong, and this stuff isn't any good. And then coming back 5 months later and seeing that a lot of the predictions I had for the meta and those cards actually ended up being kind of accurate in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not too surprised by what the meta was like. I think you are definitely right in that Corps lack a lot of strong win conditions. I think the tag-based kill conditions at the moment are actually a lot weaker than they used to be. I think punitive is maybe the only really viable kill condition. But it's still hyper niche. You need to have a deck that actually works with it. You can't just slot that in any deck like you could the tag kill ones. And then other than that, it's Titan or Glacier, and hope that you don't run into bad matchups or get flooded. But I think we saw. Obviously there was a lot of Wayland in the top cut, So I think Wayland still just has the speed and the versatility that makes it good and fairly reliable. And then run aside, I think it's basically like Crim and Anarch, and plenty of flavors of Anarch, a couple flavors of Crim, and then some people play Shaper if they really like Shaper, but I think Shaper's not in the best
Shaper's
sort of
a
condition
pile
at the
of
moment.
garbage.
And I think that's a shame, because I think if Shaper was stronger, then Titan would be weaker as well. But then that would also be
too slow for Titan.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like, if Shaper was better, I think Titan would be in less of a less dominant. But then that also wouldn't be great, because then suddenly one of the more consistent, corp. Well, maybe not consistent, but one of the stronger corp IDs is suddenly like worse as well. So I think it's an interesting matter. I think it has a lot of promise if the meta shifts. Like, I think this meta could shift in really positive directions. And I'm really curious to see what it's like in the other two Continentals coming up in the next 2 weeks. But I am definitely hoping that Gateway and the next rotation will sort of allow the current meta to evolve with the promise that it has, if that makes sense to you. What do you think, Pat?
So I was really pleasantly surprised with the Black Lives Matter tournament. Obviously, that came directly in the wake of the most recent ban list, which shook up the meta a lot. Still largely dominated by criminals with a smattering of Anarch. And I think what this tournament has also proven is that 419 is kind of the inevitable runner that can pressure early, right? Between Regiki giving that late game inevitability, it's pushed the corp win cons in the fast direction, which means that more patient tempo decks like tempo RP or tempo CTM get kind of pushed out a little bit. The more patient decks like the GameNet 7 can struggle if they have a rocky start.
I think that GameNet 7 deck is straight up a meme? Actually,
I mean, it performed well. There was one that got into a cut. Maybe you're right, but my point is that the most consistent ones are going to be the one that can challenge 419 when it is in its most vulnerable state in the early game. So you either do that by either just being blazingly fast like Titan, or you do it by being pretty fast with a viable alternative threat like Outfit or Titan. This particular tournament ended up being a lot more linear than I was expecting. I was really wonderfully surprised by the runner list in particular. Your Freedom is really cool, disrupting all of these combos, as was Longy's Leela, similarly disrupting combos and scoring tempo. So I was really pleasantly surprised there, but I have to say I am there's a little bit of me that is wishing that there was a bit more evolution on the corpse side rather than the same Argus we've been seeing for like a year and a half now. Maybe the meta just needs to be dug into more. There's a lot of new cards. There's a lot of new card interactions. Maybe there's something out there that just hasn't been found yet. It did take Dumble Fork like 3 months after all of those cards were released for that deck to be discovered. So I have a lot of hope, like Morgan said.
Yeah, I think for me, like the big question right now is basically like, I think undeniably Titan is like the best, or if not one of the best decks right now. And so in some sense, I think people are going to have to pivot off of 419. And so I think the question is going to be like, I think like Longy's deck, like runner deck, is actually like straight genius, because it's a value oriented criminal deck that can beat like every corp in the game, and then it has enough disruption to be good against like Titan and like Asa. And so I think the big question is it's clear to me that like Reg 419 is like not cutting it, in the sense that like you can maybe, it's like a good Swiss killer, but you're gonna get like beaten in the cut by people who like attacked for you. And so I think the big question runner side is like, can you build a deck that has enough value to beat every corp in the game, and then also enough disruption to beat the combo decks? And I think corp side, you just hope you don't play bad runners, because you can't do anything. So.
One thing I do want to say about this meta is that it makes me really excited for how it's going to evolve in the future. That's one thing that I'm really pleased with Nisei, is that there's always going to be like big meta shakeups on the horizon, like system gateway coming out in the future, and we don't know what that future holds. And it seeing the games today and seeing Asia Pacific having its very first Continentals makes me like it makes my heart swell with pride that that this game is still continuing
it's super sick.
to be dynamic, and that a lot of people are still playing it.
I just want to say one last thing.
Of course.
Anyone in the chat during my games who said the ban Titan or ban Audacity gets a ban from the Nisei chat, and like, because that's the most Joker MWL take I've heard in my goddamn life. That's all I have to say on that topic.
Pivoting from F-bombs to cursing the Lord. Okay, well.
I'm an atheist. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to hell.
Congratulations, Eric.
Thanks. Well, I'm going to go get some sleep, dude. I played Twilight Imperium all day. Played board games.
Yeah, you have a good night.
And played Cut. Okay.
Yeah, I was fucking playing games during playing board games during the Swiss yesterday too. So.
Morgan swore too. It wasn't just me.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I will go and eat an entire bar of soap now. Well, while we've still got Longy, I just want to also echo like Eric's praise for your Leela list. I'm definitely going to be taking a few notes.
Thank you once again.
Yeah, absolutely. I originally had Hernando in my list, and I ended up cutting it, and I regret it a lot.
Hernando is what you call the 46 card, but this time I just decided to keep him in and play with the 46 cards, and I think in 1 or 2 matchups he really made the difference.
Oh, did you also play 46 cards?
Yeah, I did. I'm not sure now, but I believe so.
I always play 46 in Criminal. It's like my weird like mojo thing. I like don't have like a little bit of extra luck unless I play 46 cards. So I am
I wanted to play 40. Sorry.
No, go on, sorry.
No, I wanted of course to play 45, so I decided to test with 46 and cut the one that was the weakest, but I just couldn't decide which one was it, so I kept it on 46 and that was it. I only think there is one card that I would definitely like to improve, and that's Maker's Eye. I would love to have 2. I tested with 2 of them. So the obvious switch is for liberated accounts, but you need to build up the money and threaten the runner to slow him down. So I switched back to 1, but Maker's Eye and labor rights, that would have been really good improved. I just don't know how to fit them. I want to play Paperclip because it's really good, really efficient. I want to play Angolo because I need to threaten the runner. So I tried to cut on turning wheels, but that didn't turn out good either. So the deck is as it is. But it definitely needs some tuning. I didn't play this that much, but I think while there is a Titan, the obvious choice, for whatever reason, given the meta situation, I think Rila would always be in a good spot. And she's funny. It's really good to play. Every time you access a server, you get the anticipation whether you hit agenda and get to bounce stuff or not. That's I think a friend of mine says that's the unique ID ability, because a lot of abilities gives you cards, gives you credits, but this is something really unique.
I totally agree. I've been a massive Leela fan for a really long time, so just totally preaching to the choir here.
Okay, so thank you for having me, guys. I'm gonna have to leave too. It's morning. I have stuff to do. I haven't been able to do anything properly yesterday since waking up at 4 a.m. to play at the tournament after the Friday night. It's always hard. But since I have next 3 weeks really busy, including the weekends, then I decided to play Inter-Asian, Australian Continentals. I'm really glad for that, but I'm terribly tired and I have to do some stuff today. And
what a trooper.
Sorry?
What an absolute trooper playing this early in the morning.
Okay, guys, thank you for commenting. Thank you and the organizers. It has been a blast of the tournament. Turned out really good for me. And hopefully see you around and keep doing all that great stuff that you do. You, Minisay, or the organizers. See you guys. Bye-bye.
Congrats, Longy, once again.
Okay, I'm gonna represent Central Europe now because we had Longy and we had Eric or Whiteblade on the stream as well. And well, what can we all say? I mean, this has been quite a ride today, right?
Absolutely incredibly exciting games. We've hit so many situations where, you know, you're dancing on that proverbial knife's edge, and we get to see high level play as well, which you can't really ask for more.
Yeah, this has been an absolute blast, and I wanted just to take a second and, you know, to shout out to all of you here commentating. This was, you know, I've been doing kind of the hands in the background and whatnot just to make sure that we have image going on and whatnot. But this was just so much fun to listen to. So I don't know if we're gonna be repeating exactly the same setup next weekend or in the upcoming Continentals, but by all means, if you will have the time to come over and help us out with this has been an absolute pleasure to be a part of and listen to you. Fine people of Netrunner discussing the games, going through all the different possible plays and you know, theorizing and whatnot. And yeah, I hope I'm gonna just drop this in here very, very quickly. We do have the Africa and Europe Continental Championships happening next weekend. Of course, everybody knows about it, I hope. If you don't, or if you do and you haven't signed up just yet, do check alwaysberunning.net for all the information, including the signups and everything else. That's the most important piece of information I have to drop right now. So any final shout-outs, questions, comments, or anything from the lovely commentators in the booth, which is spread across how many continents now?
I want to give a huge shout out to everyone we had a pleasure commentating with today. Obviously, the greatest of time. Huge shout out to Vesper for running the stream. Absolutely fantastic production without a hitch. I know you were here all yesterday, waking up early in the morning. Huge shout outs also to Nisei for organizing all this stuff, running multiple Continentals, of course, all this remote play. Absolutely phenomenal. And again, to everyone who's participating in organized play, you wear the lifeblood as well of Netrunner. So excited that you can come out, take some time to participate, and hopefully have some good fun.
Yeah, absolutely. As always, the Nissa OP team is fantastic, and also, you know, all the people who worked on the art and just getting all the prizes sorted as well. Also, you know, always really, really fantastic work. But the OP team has really done it brilliant. This has been incredibly smoothly run and organized, and I'm really, really happy to see that, you know, they've been able to organize these really cool 4 tournaments in a row during, like, you know, a time where a lot of people aren't able to play in person, aren't able to travel to events. And, you know, I think this is something that's not just important like for Netrunner, but also really important just for a lot of people. Like, this sort of event is really good for people's mental health, really good for our community, and just it's just good and great and wholesome. And I'm really, really I'm just really touched and happy to see that the NIS AOP team has managed to get this all together in such a short amount of time and put it all together. So thank you very much to all of them.
Completely agree. Thank you all for having me on, runners. I hope you've enjoyed our stream and the interviews. Continue supporting your game, continue supporting your local meta through these rough and trying times. Thank you all for having me on. It's been a pleasure commentating, and I look forward to more games.
Okay, thank you all, dear folks. I'm gonna be hopping off the Discord now, and I'm gonna get the last word on my own because that's what I usually do. I'm a terrible person like that. But once again, I'm bowing here and tipping my hat and all the other hats I have hanging around, which I don't have that many of, but still, thank you so much for taking the time and just providing us with insightful, entertaining, great, and absolutely awesome commentary. Looking forward to seeing you around the nets. And yeah, off I go into the cyberspaces to jump out of Discord. And I'm not being surrounded by hats right now, but I am going to remind you folks one more final time. We do have another round of this for, I mean, it's not really meant for Africa and Europe. It's just going to be happening in those time zones that are best for the players from those metas, from those continents. You are all welcome to sign up, of course. You don't have to be in that region. Today we had quite a lot of people. We had basically Canada and Czech Republic represented in the Asia Pacific, which you all know, of course. Canada is kind of, well, it does have a Pacific coast, and Czech Republic, of course, obviously now thanks to Longy's stunning performance. And a great finish, regardless of the time zone differences. Czech Republic now is officially a part of APAC. You know, it's like, it's Asia Pacific. Just the same way we had Australia join the Eurovision. Now we did it, Nisei totally did it, and all you did it as a lovely community. We have Czech Republic a part of APAC, obviously. It is confirmed, and we are going to put it in all the atlases. Anyway, so this is the first ocean actually for Czech Republic, just saying. I'm super happy to you know, be a part of this event, and all the people in the chat, shout outs to all of you raffling left and right. We will be sending those prizes out soon, as long as we get your information. Do remember to sign up for the Continental Championships next week for Africa and Europe. The week after that, we're gonna be going for Americas, and there's gonna be some really cool stream stuff happening as well. And 2 weeks after that, we're going to be doing the Intercontinental Invitational. That is quite a mouthful, but I'm enjoying saying this out loud quite a lot. I've been practicing in front of the mirror, you know, while shaving. Don't do it at home because it's dangerous. But anyway, there's going to be quite a ton of intercontinental fun happening in the coming weeks. And what I can say from the Nisei side of things, that will mean more scoops, hopefully. There will be some scooping happening, maybe more serious scooping, maybe less serious scooping. Is scooping actually one of those terms that I shouldn't be using on stream? Sorry, if that's some sort of a slang term for something evil or you know, not suitable for work or anything else, I'm sorry. But, well, anyway, don't listen to me right now about this. And there will be, and this is one of the other things I'm going to say before I finish, there will be more awesome voices coming your way. So it was absolutely amazing to have all the lovely commentators join us here on stream, and there will be more. We will probably have some of the best voices in Netrunner commentary, hopefully coming up next week and the weekend after as well. It all, of course, depends on the timing, on the synchronization on availability and technical stuff and whatnot. But yeah, so with that said, I'm just gonna finish this with a huge shout out to all the people you haven't actually heard on stream today. All the people who have been running things in the background. It was absolutely smooth. I wish I had been that smooth yesterday with my stream, as they have been for the last 2 days, regardless of their time zones, regardless of their sleeplessness and whatnot. So Akira, Princess Space Kitten, everybody else, Michael Papadopoulos over there as well, coordinating us in the background a bit. Everybody just, you know, hopping onto things and helping out. Absolute brilliance, and thank you so much for making this happen. I'm gonna say see you all next weekend, and always be running, because we hacked the planet yesterday. We cannot be hacking the planet all the time. It needs a break, right? So take care, enjoy, Thank you so much. You're all lovely. Peace and